series 2-1.
It's like we've been saying all along. Just put Masyn Winn in the cleanup spot.
Said it yesterday.
Everything will take care of itself. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Good to be back with you guys here on BK and Ferrario. It is 11:04. Your time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. All right, we're a week into the season. Alex, Cardinals audio, courtesy of Cardinals TV. The Cardinals are 4-2. They looked the part of a competitive club. I don't know if they're good, but competitive nonetheless. What is your biggest takeaway? What have you learned about the Cardinals as we are officially at our first off day of the regular season through the first 6 games?
That they're a cockroach? Any follow-ups to that? No,
I think I kind of got
where I was going with it. Man, I was hoping you guys would be like, what? That doesn't make sense. That's it. You chop the head off, and it's like, oh, they're not dead yet. You squish them. Hey, they're still alive. Like, you kill one of them, there's another one that comes out. Like, that's what it's felt like in these first 2 series. Every time the opponent scores a run, it's like, oh, they're not. Seriously, every time I watch the game, it feels like when the opposition scores a run, it's like, oh, well, the Cardinals aren't coming back from this one, right? When Soto hit the home run, it's like, oh, they're going to lose now. It's 1-0. But then they find ways to pull themselves back into it. So, I mean, what I'm learning right now is this team, whether they're more talented than we have given them credit, we as Cardinals fans have given them credit, or they're young and dumb enough to not understand that they're supposed to be bad. They're finding ways to win baseball games. Now, I also think we've learned a little bit more about the opponents that they've played against. I don't think the Mets are very good, and I don't think the Tampa Bay Rays are very good.
I do think the Mets are good.
I'm not convinced on that.
I'm not convinced on that. I think their pitching's a little questionable, and I think they've got 2 guys that strike fear into you. But I give credit where credit is due. Man, the Cardinals' offense is finding ways to generate runs, whether it's small ball, whether they're coming up with the ability to showcase their power. They're cockroaches, man. They don't die.
Yeah, they got a lot of fight in them, and I don't know how sustainable it is, but at least it's fun for right now, right? At least they give you some optimism to start the year rather than, like, doing what the Rockies did last year where they started, I think it was, like, 0-11. Like, at least you start off with some optimism. I don't know that anything they're doing is sustainable. I would bet against it. I will say the only thing I've really learned from them so far is, hey, you know what? They're not a truly awful rebuilding team. They're not a team that's going to lose anywhere between 95 to 100 games. I think they're anywhere between, like, 83 to 92-ish losses, and I would bank more in the middle of that. The offense probably not sustainable, but they've got some fight to them. I like what we're seeing from the young guys because they are kind of young and dumb, right? They don't know they're probably bad yet, and they're staying in most of these games. In the pitching, we all knew the bullpen was going to, well, hopefully equalize, and it did it after that Rays series. So their pitching's going to give them at least a fighting chance in these games. So they're fine, was what I would call them through the first 6 games.
It's been interesting to watch because they've been such a different team through the first 2 series. Like, the first series against Tampa was all about the offense. You scored 9, 6, and 7 runs in those 3 games. I wasn't sure we were going to see that in a single series all season long. And they did it in the first one. It was like, hot damn, all right, offense might be better. And then you come back and you score 2, 3, and 2 runs. You're not going to win a ton of games when you do that. They found a way to do it, though, against the Mets, and that's what impresses me, guys. To win 2-1 yesterday in 11 innings, I wasn't sure they had that in them. Now, baseball's weird. They might not do that the entire rest of the regular season. Like, seriously, they might not win a game in which they score 1 run through 11 innings the entire rest of the way. But they did it. And on Tuesday, they shut out the Mets for the entirety of that one. Andre Palante looked, I thought, pretty damn good in that game. I thought it was maybe the best start that we've seen by a Cardinal starter so far this year. I thought yesterday Matthew Liberatore looked pretty darn good. This stuff isn't overwhelming. It's never been overwhelming from Matthew Liberatore, though, and he's finding ways to be productive. So I've been pretty impressed. I don't think you could ask for a whole lot more in the first week of the regular season out of this team, and it gives me a little bit of optimism that, hey, maybe they're not going to be a playoff team. I don't think anybody expected them to be.
Right now they are.
Could they win 80 to 85 games, though? Yeah, I think this is kind of what that looks like. This is what you would expect it to be if they're going to be an 80 to 85 win team. We'll see if it's sustainable, though. It very well may not be. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like, regardless if it's sustainable, they've got guys that are fun to watch. And that's what I think is all that matters. And especially if you're Hein Bloom, you're watching these guys. And if they remain competitive, that's how you find out who's a part of what you're trying to build, right? Like watching J.J. Weatherholt. It's pretty obvious that guy's got the ability to come through in big moments. Burleson's starting to show more of it. Masyn Winn, he's a cleanup hitter now for the Cardinals because of that game-winning run. Like, you find out what a lot of these guys are, and especially on the pitching staff. One turn and an extra guy through the rotation, and you're starting to see some of these guys and what they have the ability to do. So
I would like to respond real quick to the they've played nobody thing.
Who said they were playing
good.
nobody?
Text line, I don't know.
Okay.
T-Bone said they've played 2 teams that are bad. Like, I think it's out there.
Oh, that was him.
And then you agreed with it.
Never said 2 teams. Well, Tampa Bay's bad. I think the Mets aren't good either. I think the Mets aren't going to be as good as people are making them out to be.
That's fair.
I mean,
I think they're fine. I think they're decent. I think they're a probable playoff team.
Probable.
I do.
I think that's fair for the most of the National League outside the Dodgers.
And that's my thing. Okay, so they've played nobody. Look at the National League, guys. Who is somebody in the National League? Like, who could they have played over the weekend and into this week that you would have said in the National League, oh, that team, that's a real threat? The Dodgers?
Be about it for me.
Is there anybody else that you would look at and say, all right, well, now we know because they played them, and that is as good as the National League has to offer?
I guess
like
depends what you're looking for.
Like, if you're came into the season and they might have been the second best team in the National League.
If you're looking for like the pitching to prove something against like a really good lineup, I think you would say Dodgers, Phillies, Diamondbacks.
Is the Phillies lineup better than this?
I think so.
Genuinely asking.
I think it is.
You're saying going up against the pitchers or your hitters going up against their pitchers?
No, your pitchers going up against their hitters. Like, I think it's different, like for anything, right? Like if you're saying, well, what about the offense versus good pitching stats? Well, I think you saw it in the Mets, right? Like they were able to muster 3 runs in most games. I think that's what it's going to be for the Mets this season.
I don't know, man. I mean, the Phillies lineup is basically Schwarber and Harper and praying that Turner turns it around and then a bunch of guys.
Yeah, I like the Phillies lineup still better. I mean the Mets, I think it's
the Mets, though?
The Mets lineup is Soto, Bichette, Lindor, and a bunch of guys. So they're both 3 guys and then a bunch of other dudes that you have no idea if they're going to be good or not, depending on the season. I think they're remarkably similar, in my opinion. I just don't think that the National League has a whole lot to offer in that regard.
I agree.
I think it's a lot of teams that are super mediocre, and this has always been my stance on the Cardinals is there's an opening here, especially in the wild card. I don't know if they're good enough to be able to meet that threshold. It may be like the Cubs and the Braves, Mets, Phillies. Like these teams are just a little better than the Cardinals. I believe that. But I don't know. The Reds weren't good last year. I didn't think they were good at all. And they did it based upon pitching. And T-Bone, your point on that is totally fair. I do not think the Cardinals have the pitching that the Reds did a year ago. I also think the Cardinals offense might be a little better than what the Reds offense was last year. Yeah. So if you equalize it all out, look at the bullpen. I think the bullpen's going to be pretty good eventually for the Cardinals. You have decent starting pitching. Maybe you are able to take advantage of some of this stuff. So that would be my pushback against this idea that they haven't played anybody. I don't think anybody really has played anybody in the National League because there aren't many great teams to go around.
Yeah, I would never bank on an offense to carry a lackluster pitching staff because as time has showed over the last decade, it doesn't happen and it doesn't work. I mean, look at the...
Not in the playoffs, at least.
I don't think it really works in the regular season for the most part. Maybe you can get by surviving until you get to the deadline, then you can add reinforcements, a.k.a. what the Cardinals did in 21 and 22. But I would never bank on that. But, like, I think the best part for what we can say through the first 6 games, look, I still think this team is bad, right? I think weirdish happens in the first month of the season. I think bad teams don't know they're bad yet. Look at the Cardinals. Look at the Washington Nationals. They haven't learned that they're bad yet and have gotten those vibes in the locker room, which is good. They shouldn't have that yet. But I think what the best part is you can take individuals and look at them and say, okay, this is at least something that's a good story to monitor as we go along. Jordan Walker looked good through the first couple of games. Nolan Gorman's looked good through the first couple of games. We talked about this for a brief moment yesterday, Alex, where Ivan Herrera's been behind the plate for 2 games. And the Cardinals are basically saying, hey, this guy seems to be calling a very good game, which I know sounds like a small victory. Guys, they didn't want him behind the plate for multiple reasons in years past. And one of those was that he wasn't calling good games.
And no stolen bases against him yet.
Exactly. And no one's attempted one on him. But
yeah,
I don't know.
I think that says something.
That says that the pitchers haven't gotten guys on base, which could lead to him calling games. That's one that I still am waiting to see what happens. But you're getting these small individual improvements on things that you needed to see, right?
9 base runners yesterday. They had a few of them.
What's that?
There are 9 base runners
For the Cardinals?
No, for the opposition.
But his was catching.
Yeah, no stolen bases.
When he said 9 base runners yesterday, he realized that Herrera wasn't catching.
Yeah, I was
That's
going to say, yeah. It's like you felt pretty confident over there for not the point of what I was saying.
He said it to try and push back, and then he realized who was catching.
Alex 100% saw through the facade. 100%.
That's why I thought you were talking about the offense. I was like, he surely didn't bring that up, right? Fives was behind the
When
plate.
you said, what's that, and his voice trailed off at the end of it, I'm like, dude, he realized it.
The moment I said it, I was like, you dumb, you know what?
9 runners yesterday. Yeah. We got there.
That, though.
We got there.
You get my point, though.
Yeah,
There's been small victories for the Cardinals, which is what they need, and then it's something for us to track as the year goes on.
Season's for.
And you're right. There's nobody that strikes fear other than the Dodgers in the National League. But I also look at it as it's the early portion of the season, and this is what happens. I'm not taking anything away from them. You've won 2 series. If you would have asked me at the beginning of the year, I would have thought you would have lost both series. Your offense is keeping you in baseball games, which is the important factor. I just don't feel as if this is the measurement of, oh, yeah, this can be a playoff team right now.
Do the Tigers count?
You going up against Tarek Skubal?
I didn't pick the Tigers to win their division, so
Yeah, no, I don't think
shouldn't answer this.
I mean, I think the Tigers
like their rotation. I think you're going to learn a lot about that
Flaherty
offense.
and Verlander.
Oh, that Verlander guy's old and washed up.
What about Washington? Do they count?
No.
Well, right now,
What about Boston? Do they count?
No.
Boston does.
They stink.
I think Boston
They're
does.
1-5 to start the year.
What about Cleveland? Do they count?
They don't have an offense.
What about
This
Houston?
team is going to be
I don't know about
number
the
1 in the
Houston
NL
What
Central.
about Miami?
They're young and
T-Bone,
dumb and
you
fun.
hate everybody in baseball right now.
End of
Basically,
the
yeah.
season,
I don't think
and
there's a lot of
according
great
to
teams.
T-Bone, the Cardinals have not played anybody yet. This is my point. It's hard to find legitimate competition when nobody's good. The entire league is full of mediocrity, and you're in that. Like, you're part of the mediocrity. This is what the Blues season has been.
Don't
Man,
point at me
nobody's
when you call me
good.
mediocre.
So, yeah, maybe they've got a shot to be able to get in because, man, look at these other teams that are competing for it. I don't think San Jose's very good. Now they got a superstar, but I don't think the team's very good. I don't think Seattle's very good. I don't think LA's very good. These teams are all super mediocre. Cardinals are basically in the exact same situation. Now, they do play Seattle April 24th through the 26th. I believe them to be very good. Then they play Pittsburgh. Then they've got LA. They're very good. Milwaukee, they might be good. San Diego, A's, Kansas City, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati.
If
so
they were in the
first
AL,
2 months of the season, you get 3 series.
I think if they were in the AL, it would be a little different because I think there are some really good teams in the American League. I agree on your point, though, in the National
4 of them,
League.
and you said no to all of them.
Boston's 1-5 to start the year. I don't think I'm wrong on that one.
Okay,
I think the good teams.
So the start to the season matters for Boston, but not for the Cardinals. I get it. That makes sense.
I didn't miss your tone from yesterday. I liked it when you were at home.
Is that not a fair point, Alex? The 1-5 start is very meaningful for Boston, but the 4-2 start for the Cardinals.
Boston didn't go into the year saying we're
What
rebuilding.
about Miami? Is Miami good?
No.
They're 5-1.
Yeah, they're not a good baseball team. Look at who they played. They
All
played Colorado and the White Sox.
Okay, all right.
Come on.
Gotcha. No, I get it. That makes sense. I understand.
9 base runners yesterday.
Yeah.
Pedro Paez threw them all out.
I just find it to be really funny when we can determine what does and does not matter in the first
I find it
6 games of the
amazing
regular
that you can step in on one segment and just deliver tone.
I know.
Like nobody's
it's like
business.
he never left.
Golly.
And I got to talk to him for another hour after the show today.
Man, I'm
Curb
good.
Stomp says, let's talk Blues. We'll do exactly that.
Why do we have to do that?
We've got Joey Vitale joining us at some point
At
today.
11:30.
Okay, cool. 11:30.
11:30.
We think Felix Trudeau joining us as well. I don't know when. At some point during the show today. We will also
Surprise.
hear from you. 314-399-9646. That is the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. YouTube chat is off and running, and they're all calling me Tony. YouTube.com/101
You had a day off yesterday, man.
But coming up next, the Blues overtime issues are this year's version of 6 on 5. We'll get into it next year on 101 ESPN.
Here's Anze Kopitar, 1,513th game. Gets it to Moore. In, shoots, score! The Kings get the extra point. Third consecutive OT win over the Blues this year. And 156 into overtime. The Kings beat the Blues 2-1.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone and BK, that's what it sounded like last night as the Blues lose in overtime once again. They're what, Alex? 4-12?
Yeah.
When a game goes to overtime this year?
4-12 in overtime and a shootout.
Yeah. So if it goes to overtime, they're 4-12.
Yeah.
This is last year's 6-on-5. Last year, there would be a goalie pull situation, and the Blues were just awful. And then eventually it showed its head once we got to the postseason, and we all know how that went. But Alex, if the Blues were competent in overtime, like just let's say instead of being 4-12, they were 7-9 in those situations. You add another 3 points to their resume right now, they're right where you would need to be to get into the postseason.
Yeah,
that's it.
These losses didn't matter as much as they did Monday and Wednesday if you just are competent.
So if you put 3 more points onto their resume, they'd be what, a point back right now?
Yeah,
of the
you'd be a
playoffs?
point back of the Kings.
Tied with the Sharks and
You're
the
right
Predators.
there. And you have some tiebreakers over these teams. So we'd be talking about them still being in competition with the teams that are in the playoffs. But they aren't because of this, because of their lackluster ability to put the puck in the back of the net once they get to overtime. And to me, Alex, I don't think that's anything you can look at and be like, hey, schematically, this is problematic or X, Y, and Z. I think they just don't have the dudes. And that shows up more when you get into 3-on-3 situations than it would in regulation. So I think there is something representative of their struggles in overtime that just shows up more in those situations. And it goes back to what we've been saying all along. They need more threats from the wing. They need guys that can be a legit 30-goal scoring threat beyond just Holloway and Snuggerud. Because right now, you look at that second line, and listen, I've been the Jordan Kyrou defender on the show. He ain't it. I don't know what's happened to him, but his game has been pretty awful for the last couple of weeks now. They need other guys that they can trust on that second line or that could play on the top line beyond just the 2 guys that we've been talking about.
Yeah, I went back and looked at it last season. They had 12 wins in 3-on-3 overtime, which is a big reason why they pushed themselves into the postseason. Like they couldn't be stopped in overtime. And a lot of the reason for that was you had about 6 guys that you trusted to jump over, 6 forwards, I should say, that you trusted when they jumped over the boards. I think if you're being honest with yourself, you've got about 4 guys that you trust right now that step over the boards when you get to 3-on-3 overtime as forwards. I think it's Thomas Holloway, Snuggerud, and Pius Suter. Puchnevich has not been offensively available for you, nor has Jordan Kyrou. Jake Neighbors has not been kind of the guy that you need in overtime. And you don't have, I mean, they used Radek Faksa last season in overtime, who came up with a couple of goals for him. So, yeah, I mean, when I look at their issues in overtime, like I'd have to sift back through to be 100% on this, but at least in the last 6 overtime games, they've been outshot in every single one of them. They just don't have the puck.
Checks out.
Yeah, they don't have the puck, and they're not getting shots off. Like last night, Monty basically said, like, we were hesitant with the puck. They had 63 shot attempts, and only 24 of them hit the net. Ugh. Like, you're back to what you did earlier, to where you can't generate enough offense, you're hesitating with your decisions, and you're hitting bodies or you're missing the net. And that goes to say in overtime. But it also comes down to your defense. Like, I mean, last night, not to throw the guy under the bus, but you kind of dogged it in that goal that led to LA scoring. You had the puck in the offensive zone. Kyrou glided back in the middle of the ice, and Berggren got beat one-on-one, and so Binnington had to basically defend the guy on a breakaway. That's not what you need in overtime. So I like the run-and-gun style, but the Blues just don't have the bodies. They need about 3 more guys that you can trust to throw out there in overtime, and right now they have to play so much of Thomas and Snuggerud and Holloway that when you get to those secondary options, you're just uncertain of what's going to take place.
I've got your overtime goal scores. This is 3-on-3, so it's not exclusively overtime, but pretty close to it. Scores for the Blues last year. Can you name all of them who had multiple goals for the Blues in 3-on-3 last year? Broberg was 1. He had 2. Holloway had 3. Kyrou did not. Kyrou only had 1 last year.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Thomas
had 3.
Damn.
How many more are there?
2 more.
2 more.
No, not Snuggerud.
Neighbors?
Nope.
No Neighbors.
He had 1.
Booch?
No, Shen.
Shin had 3 of them.
Shen was really good in overtime
Booch
last
only
year.
in 1. There's one other player who had at least 2 goals in 3-on-3 situations from a year ago.
Was it a defenseman?
It was
Parayko.
Colton Parayko.
Yeah.
And this year, he just hasn't been an offensive threat for you.
Yeah.
So that's a real problem for the Blues, is that they need to get more out of Colton Parayko. You haven't replaced what Braden Shin brought in 3-on-3 situations from last year. And when you add that up, and by the way, Bolduc was a guy they trusted in 3-on-3 situations. He wasn't scoring often, but he was a guy who they trusted in those spots, and this year they don't have him out there.
I mean, they have Booch and Kyrou, and when Booch and Kyrou take the ice, they're not getting into the offensive zone. They're spending too much time in their own end, and they're not playing the tight enough defense that's required in 3-on-3 overtime. So, I mean, it really does come down to that depth of scoring once again, and we've been talking about it since the Olympic break. No coincidence, Thomas scored the goal last night. Like, I know Kyrou and Buchnevich and Neighbors' line has picked up a few points in their previous couple of games, but that top line is wearing down because they're using them so much to try and generate offense, and you have nothing else around you. So that's why you were in a 1-0 game up until late in the third period, and when you got to overtime, if Thomas, Snuggerud, Holloway, or Broberg aren't scoring, they're not generating much offensively.
He's Alex Ferrario. That's Tanner Hendrickson. I'm Brandon Kiley. You got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. We'll get into this more later, but Alex, it sounds like they are probably going to make some kind of lineup changes going into tomorrow night's game. They said, hey, if it doesn't go well tonight, we'll switch it up.
Yeah.
It didn't go well.
Way better than I guess he would have probably wanted it to go, or, could have gone.
What do you think that those lineup changes look like?
I think all of these guys are going to get into the lineup with the exception of maybe one of the defensemen. And we're talking Sundqvist, Walker, Druin, and one of Tucker or Kessel. Like, I think the defenseman's pretty easy. Justin Hull probably comes out. Maybe they sit somebody because they've been playing through an injury or something like that right now. I think all 3 of those forwards get in. I think you'll see Berggren come out of the lineup because he gets beat on that play. I personally believe you're going to see Kyrou come out. And I have no information to buy into this. I'm just going off of what he said and what's happened in these last couple of games. That Kyrou, Buchnevich, Neighbors line got chewed out against the San Jose Sharks for that Celebrini goal that was scored in the final minutes of the first period. And then last night you had Kyrou on the ice that just was gliding back at 3-on-3 overtime. I can't imagine they were happy about that. Jim Montgomery has talked a lot about these guys going into one-on-one battles and winning those 50-50 battles. You lost a lot of those if you're Kyrou. So I don't know if he pulls them, but I have a very strong feeling that Druin's going to go in, which would make sense if Kyrou comes out, you put Druin there, and then you've got Walker and Sundqvist, and you got to find 2 other spots at the forward position to pull out.
Who do you think the other 2 are? So you got Berggren, Kyrou. Who's the third?
Berggren, Kyrou, and then probably Finley or
Torpo.
One of those. My guess is probably not Torpo, so maybe Finley. But, I mean, Finley's been your only guy that's winning you faceoffs right now. So that's why it's hard for me to believe. I think what would be a wild one, which I don't think they will do, is if Kyrou and Booch come out. I don't think they do that one. But they're going to probably move Booch off the center and move Pius Suter back there if Sundqvist comes in because you got another centerman. So maybe it would be Jack Finley.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd say Torpo comes out, Berggren comes out, and Stenberg comes out. I'm not telling you have to like it, but that's my guess on what you see. Is that those 3 are the moves for the game tomorrow?
I don't think any chance Stenberg comes out.
I think they want him to play.
Yeah, I think they want him to play just like you'd keep Dvorsky in there. So that's the hard part of I don't know who that third guy is. But the way he spoke yesterday, those 3 are going to be playing. And maybe only 2 of them get in, and then the third one gets in versus Colorado on Sunday. So it's very possible that way. But
yeah, I'd do 2.
I just look at the body language of how Kyrou was the last couple of games and how Jim Montgomery was reacting in the last couple of games. And it lends me to wonder if they look at this and say somebody's going to have to take a seat.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Joey Vitale, Blues analyst, joins us next here on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here with the Sports Center update brought to you by Universal Windows Direct. The Blues fell in overtime last night to the Kings. They will be back in action tomorrow night when they visit the Anaheim Ducks. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 8 o'clock with Alex Ferrario. Puck drop at 9 o'clock with Chris Kerber and Joey Vitale. And yesterday, the Cardinals took down the Mets 2-1 in extra innings as they take 2 of 3 from New York. They are off today. They'll start a 3-game set at Detroit tomorrow afternoon. 12:10 will be first pitch. Framber Valdez will be on the mound for the Tigers. Michael McGreevy will get the start for St. Louis. The Sports Update was brought to you by Universal Windows Direct. You'll be saying, I love my windows.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Happy to go out to the Callier and Thompson hotline to be joined by our friend, Blues analyst for 101 ESPN and FanDuel Sports Midwest. He's the one and only, the great Joey Vitale, joining us here on BK and Ferrario. Joe, how you doing today, man?
Joey! Joey! Joe Vitale!
What's up, boys? What's up? In Cali, I just had... Yeah, you guys are dads. You can appreciate this. You know, there's a lot of bad things that come with being a father, as we know. One of the greatest pleasures, I was having breakfast with my son. One of the greatest pleasures is whenever you ask your kids, hey, can I have a bite of that? He had this cinnamon morning bun. It looked like heaven. I go, have a bite of that? And then, you know, we all know dad bites are big bites.
Yep.
I love taking a big old munch, and the reaction from your kids when you take a dad-sized bite of a piece of their food, it is the greatest pleasure of being a father.
We've been buying those, you know, like every holiday they have those cookies at the grocery store that you just kind of put the cookie dough in it. So they made Easter cookies the other night, and I came home from the Blues game, and I ate all of them. There's like 7 left. And Joe Adelaide, my oldest, woke up, and she walked to the kitchen because she knew where it was, and she came into my room and stood over me with the empty Ziploc bag and said, Daddy, you're not supposed to eat all of them. You're supposed to eat one. I said, you made them. They thought they were for me.
That's where you say that, honey, these were so good, I couldn't just have one. I needed to have 7.
Yeah, so now when Katie cooks them, she looks at Katie and she goes, hide these so Daddy can't find them. Yep. And I said, good luck doing that.
Love it.
We have to do that for my dog because my son is afraid of her now. Because the 7-pound dog eats all of his food when he leaves it out on the ground.
Yep, that's how that goes.
Joe, are you staying in the same hotel in LA? How's this work for you guys logistically?
Oh yeah, so we kind of hang together, which is awesome. And of course, he's on Easter break. And you know, with 5 kids, I will say one of the luxuries of having so many is, you know, my mom, she travels a lot, so every now and then she'll tote one of them with her on these road trips. So getting a chance to catch up with her on the road and be with one of my kids is always fun. Anytime you can be on the road, as you guys know, we travel a ton, and especially from August to April, it's tough. So anytime we can do that, it's certainly a lot of fun.
All right, Joe, let's talk a little bit about that game last night. Once again, overtime comes home to roost for this Blues team. What happened in that one in 3-on-3? And is it a theme at all in your opinion?
No, it's a theme, BK. I think that it's just it's something that, you know, all year long, it seems like it has not worked out for the Blues. But you know what? It hasn't worked out for the Kings either, and they sit in the second wild card spot. I mean, they have 18 overtime and shootout losses, which is top in the league, and they're in a playoff spot right now. So it kind of goes both ways. I think they have the personnel to do it. You know, I think that, you know, for a lot of these overtime losses, you just, as a Blues fan, you look at Bennington and Hofer, and to me, I'm like, let's just get to shootout. You know, if you can get to a shootout, you have some of the best goaltenders in the league as far as, you know, the shootout goes. But a lot of these games are ending in overtime. It was just a great effort last night for Trevor Moore. He goes coast to coast, and he lifts it over Bennington's shoulder. And what ended up becoming a very playoff atmosphere type of game, not from an energy standpoint, but from a defensive standpoint, there just wasn't a lot available. LA blocked so many shots. The Blues missed a ton of shots as well. But it's amazing, too, that you look at how you entered into that night where you knew it was a must-win for the Blues. You also were scoreboard watching the Sharks. You know, at one point when the Blues tied it at 1, you're thinking, okay, they're going to win this game. San Jose was down by a goal late in that third. You're thinking, okay, this is going to be an okay night. We're going to survive this night. This is exactly what needs to happen. Maybe you win in overtime, you win in a shootout. San Jose looks like they're going to lose in regulation. And it's amazing, guys, how quickly they can flip. You know, overtime goal by Trevor Moore ends it in L.A. Just seconds before that, of course, Macklin Celebrini gets a tying goal late in San Jose. And then, you know, like we saw, Wenberg there ends it in regulation for the second game in a row late in that game as Adam Gaudette ended it for the Blues. So San Jose gets 2 points in regulation. The Blues only walk away with 1. And mathematically speaking, we all know that there is still a little bit of a glimmer of hope for the St. Louis team, but the fate of the San Jose Sharks win last night and the Blues loss in overtime, from a practicality standpoint, it makes it extremely difficult to see this Blues team now play any kind of postseason hockey.
It's kind of where I was going next, Joe. Like, how were the guys? Because, you know, you take it day by day, but they have to feel as if that was their last shot at a playoff spot. And I'll be really curious to see how Jim Montgomery handles the line for Friday, because I would imagine you're going to see some of those scratches come in and maybe some names come out of the lineup.
Yeah, I think we're going to start seeing a lot of different names coming in now. And, you know, Alex, that's what Jim said before the game. He said that we'll see how tonight goes, and if we don't get the results we want, we're going to start seeing guys coming in and out. So is this a spot where Nathan Walker draws back in? I know they've missed his presence big time. Oscar Sundqvist in the middle there as well. I think they're still kind of giving some looks to Jack Finley. It's a weird balance where you got to kind of see what you have in some young players. You got to see what you have in some veteran players if they're a part of this come next year, like a Justin Hall, for example. Jonathan Berggren is another perfect example of that. Because you have willing and able veterans on the outside that are, some of them have term, some of them don't. Of course, Walker with more term and Oscar Sundqvist is a UFA. So I think that you're going to start seeing a lot more flexibility for Jim as far as players coming in, players coming out, which I think is the right move because you want to see what you have. But yes, the tone of this team after the game last night was certainly a little bit down in the dumps, and it had the potential to be something so great. You know, I get to the lobby last night and John Hamm is there with his wife and you're just like, wow, there's a bar there and, you know, it could be a wonderful night there in California. And you see the team walk in shortly after as John and I were talking, and everyone just looked like they just got done seeing Scary Movie 3, you know what I mean, or Scream 3. It's just kind of a bummer, right? And but the moods are down. It's an unfortunate one. It's one that kind of stings. Not quite to the level of what Game 7 was last year to Winnipeg. That was the worst I've ever seen this team. That was like walking onto a plane where it was a ghost town. I mean, everyone was just numb. Wasn't quite to that level, Alex, but I think they understand the situation. They understand how important those 2 points were last night, and I think they played well enough to win that game. And it's just they did not get the bounce. Too many block shots for L.A. They missed the net too many times, but they certainly carried the play. They're a better hockey team than the Kings. I mean, even the broadcaster, Jim Fox, came over to me, and we were talking, you know, mid-intermission. He's like, St. Louis is a well-built team. They are completely outplaying L.A., but we just couldn't get that goal. We just couldn't get the lead. We couldn't extend the lead. And it's just that's the way it's been on this whole road trip. Even in San Jose, there were just moments like, okay, we're going to go grab this thing. And then Adam Gaudette ended it a few nights ago, and then in overtime last night for Trevor Moore.
Joey, take some time with your kids, man. Appreciate you hopping on with us today, and we'll talk with you again next week, man, as we wind down this regular season for the Blues.
Hey, weekend as well. Happy Easter to you all. Hope you guys have a great holiday, and we'll talk to you next week.
Same to you, Joey Vitale. Appreciate his time as always here on BK and Ferrario. I think what he said there at the end, Alex, is a really good point. This team just doesn't have the ability to get that kill shot. Mm-hmm. They've been trying for it all season long, and whether it's like they're up and they have an opportunity to distance themselves, or they're down and they have the ability to come back, but then can't quite get over the top. That's been an issue for them all season long.
Yeah, I mean, and Jim Montgomery said this last night, it's been our issue. We don't have the ability to just unload offensively. Like, you can score a few goals, a couple of goals, but you're winning hockey. The reason you've got a .735 point percentage since the Olympic break is because you've allowed the fewest goals in the National Hockey League prior to that San Jose Sharks game. That's how you're winning games. And guess what? That's an exhausting brand of hockey to play. You've got to have the ability to open up a little bit more opportunity for different players to step out onto the ice, because when you're playing in a 1-goal game in the third period, and when you've been pushing to get that lead for 2 periods, you got to just stay with the same 6 guys, which is exhausting to do for 60 minutes. But also special teams has killed them. You don't have a power play.
Yeah.
Like your power play prior to the last couple of games that has picked up and scored a few goals. Before the Monday night game against the Sharks, you had scored 2 power play goals, and one of them was an empty net power play goal. You don't have special teams that assists you when your 5-on-5 is struggling or a goaltender is red hot. And look at what happened last night. How'd the LA Kings take a 1-goal lead? They couldn't get anything past Pennington, couldn't generate any offensive. And then they score on the power play. That's what good teams do. They take advantage of opportunities on special teams, and the Blues have been lackluster in that front in the last couple of years.
Alex, you've been on this for as long as we've been doing the show together. Did you see the even strength ice time for the fourth line last night?
I did not.
Jack Finley played 7 minutes.
Yeah.
Alexei Toropchenko, 8 minutes.
Who led the team, by the way, in shots on goal.
And Pius Suter had 9.
Yeah. Think about that for a minute. A guy who played 8 minutes led the team in shots on goal with 6 of them. Holloway had 11 shot attempts, but hit the net, I think, twice. What you just laid out to me is why the Blues can't play the way they want to play. Mm-hmm. Because we saw last year, how do they like to play? They like 4 lines that they can roll at any moment because they trust that 4th line. I don't know if there's real trust on that 4th line yet.
Clearly.
Jack Finley is still a younger player that they're trying to get accustomed, which is why he keeps continuing to play. But guess what? When you're in a 0-0 hockey game after the first, you're still looking for that opportunity. And then when the Kings score a goal, your bench is shortened because now you've got to score a goal in desperation mode. And so you go from 12 guys to 6 guys, maybe 7 or 8. And then in the third period, when about 10 minutes are left, you go to about 5 guys and hope that those 5 guys can score. And then when you do, you go to overtime where you're exhausted, but those are the guys you have to play.
He's Alex. That's T-Bone. I'm BK. BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Coming up next, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers here on 101 ESPN. 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers from the 573. Guys, do you think this will be the only time all year that the Cardinals will win back-to-back series? No.
I think you could win back-to-back series at some point the rest of the way.
Yeah, I don't think it's the only time. I haven't looked at their schedule. I'm sure they've got like back-to-back series with Pittsburgh and Cincinnati at some point. They could easily take two or three from those two teams.
I wonder how many times the Rockies did this last year.
One back-to-back series?
They may not be a good
I would take the under of 5.
The reason that, so they won 3 straight series in August. The reason I bring this up is because, it's just hard not to do this.
Yeah.
Because you play so many series over the course of the year. They swept the Marlins at one point last year. They won 3 out of 4 against the Washington Nationals. It was pretty limited for them, but if they can do it, you'll do it.
We'll see who end up becoming truly awful baseball teams this year. I mean, he just read off the Marlins were solid last year, so you could run into a solid team, surprise them, and then you run into a really bad team like Washington.
Exactly.
You could easily do this again.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line from the 636. Guys, if Kyrou, Jiricek, Carbonneau, and a first-round pick were offered for Brady Tkachuk, who would say no?
I think the Blues would say no.
That's a lot.
That's way too much to give up for a guy that, if he's going to want out, we'll get to the rumors around that in a little bit, but if he's wanting out, Ottawa doesn't have a hand to play. They can say, we're not going to trade you, which is fine, but I don't know how much they're going to want the drama around it. So I think you're probably looking at one of those prospects, Kyrou, and the first-round pick, and it would be your first-round pick.
Can I ask you a question about Brady?
Yeah.
Why isn't he more into the positive?
What do you
mean? He's consistently at or below and even on the plus-minus. I know that they're not very good, but Claude Giroux this year is a plus 18.
You're talking plus-minus on the ice, right?
Yep. And I'm not saying that makes him a bad player. I know plus-minus can be skewed. It's about situations, who you're playing against, but they have guys on their last year. Shane Pinto was a plus 10, and you look at his plus-minus, and he was an even.
Yeah.
Brady Tkachuk.
My honest answer, I don't think he's a great defensive player. He's also not putting up a ton of points. He's got 50 points in 54 games.
He's more like a point per game kind of guy.
Yeah, and if you're going to be that, you've got to be really good defensively. But I would also say I think he's on a line that's not great defensively. Tim Stützle's not. I don't know what Stützle's plus minus is, but I don't think he's viewed as a defensive-minded centerman. Brady Tkachuk has been on the ice for 41 goals for and 40 goals against. So I think that line is just not a great defensive line. I don't know who the winger is with Stützle and Tkachuk, but Claude Giroux is viewed as an incredible defensive centerman. Shane Pinto is a really good two-way centerman. That line he plays on is just an offensive line, and he's not the greatest defensive forward there is.
Yeah, that's something that I've always wondered with him is why isn't there more impact on winning if he is such an excellent player, as everybody says he is. And I'd take Brady Tkachuk in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
I think he makes you better, but better to the point where you'd give up that? I don't know.
No.
I don't know. I don't know if that's really worth it.
Yeah,
all right.
That's too much.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers. From Artificial Unintelligence, I would give up Kyrou, Neighbors, and the Colorado first for Brady Tkachuk.
They'd probably hang up on that one.
Who?
Ottawa. I don't think the Colorado first would be enough to get it done. I think if you're giving
Kyrou and Neighbors?
Yeah. I don't think that would be enough. I think they'd look at it as give us your first or Detroit's first.
What do you think Neighbors would be worth in a trade via draft pick compensation? If the Blues said we're making Neighbors available to the entire league, what kind of draft pick compensation do you think they would get?
I think you'd get a first plus, probably a couple
first.
of mid picks and a first round pick being the highlight package of it.
So a first round pick plus. Mm-hmm. What do you think Kyrou would get?
First round pick plus, probably the same to Neighbors.
So you're giving up the equivalent of 3 first round picks and a couple of mid round picks for.
The Colorado pick is probably viewed as a second round pick. You could call it a first round pick, but it's probably going to be 31, 32. So however you want to view that, it's a first round pick. It's a high second round pick. That's what that one would be viewed.
Do you think Neighbors or Carbonneau has more value?
I'd say Carbonneau. I think teams value goals in offense and a shot.
Even though it's unproven.
Yeah, and he's going to be cheap compared to Neighbors, who's going to get a bigger contract soon. Now, but that comes down to what team's acquiring him. I think Ottawa would probably prefer Neighbors, because he's more NHL proven.
That's why I don't know that they would immediately shut the door on that. That feels like a pretty good deal.
I don't know if they'd immediately shut the door. I don't think they'd be like, yeah, done deal. I think they would want a higher first-round pick for it because it's Brady Tkachuk.
If I'm the Blues, I'd be like, no, this is what we got. I guess, honestly, you'd probably just say, okay, Detroit's first rounder.
Yeah.
Right? Like
I'm
the
not giving you
mid-first
mine.
round pick.
Yeah.
I think that's actually a decent suggestion, is something like that, because what you're losing in Brady Tkachuk is a lot of the physicality that he brings to the table, that power forward presence, and Neighbors does not replace that completely.
Yeah.
But he can give you like 60% of it for 50% of the cost. That's not a bad way to go about this. Kyrou is a good player who very clearly just, it's not working here anymore. Mid-first round pick along with that. Yeah, I think that might be the kind of package that you'd be looking at if you're Ottawa.
And I don't know.
Because I think they want something that helps them right now.
Yeah, that's the only way you're trading Brady Tkachuk. If it's the same with Matthew. Like, Calgary made that trade because they thought that Huberdeau and Weegar could help them right now. And it turned out that was a terrible trade for Calgary. But yeah, you'd have to give up something that helps them now. I really wonder how much the Blues' appetite would be of trading Neighbors, though. Like, to me, it would make a lot of sense. But what do the Blues view that as?
Yeah, a lot of people saying on the text line right now, why would Jake Neighbors be worth all that? He's just not that productive. I mean, he's a consistent 20-goal scorer. That's what he is.
And I mean, look at who he's been playing with this season. Like, you put him on a line with Tim Stützle, I think we're having a different conversation on Jake Neighbors.
I think if you were Ottawa and you trade for Jake Neighbors, you're expecting 20-plus goals next year.
Yeah. Especially with the offense that they have, I think you'd expect 25 goals with him because he's a power forward and he's cheap and he's young.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. Coming up in 15 minutes, we'll dive into some NFL quick hitters, including news from the LA Rams yesterday that I had to read about 100 times before I finally believed, I guess this isn't an April Fool's joke. We'll get into that coming up here in about 15 minutes. But next, Masyn Winn came through in the clutch. Does that change this notion of him not being a cleanup hitter? Probably not. We'll discuss it next year on 101 ESPN. Masyn Winn came through in a big spot yesterday, Alex.
as we
Alongside
said,
Alex and T-Bone on BK.
I said he'd have a big game after we talked about him in his bad.
We didn't even really ish on him yesterday. We were just like, yeah, deal with it. He's not good there. And if I'm going to be fully transparent with you guys, it kind of was like, everyone's acting like that was a walk-off home run for them. It was a bloop single to right that. Probably should have got there.
The box score, it looks like a line drive.
You know what? It does. You're absolutely right.
Expected batting average, I think, was 190. It's not the kind of hit that you could expect
All right, don't look
to
at that
drop.
part of the
But
box
again,
score.
the narrative was, he walked it off.
And that's all that matters.
Hooray!
Right? Like, at the end of the day, if you score the goal against Joel Hofer the other night that Adam Gaudette did, guess what?
Wow.
It counts the same as it would if it was Connor McDavid deking through the entire defensive core,
Any
right?
goal. We could have pointed out
I mean, you're
any
not
goal.
wrong.
It just doesn't matter.
That Gaudette goal was the equivalent of a 190 batting average.
Exactly. You don't expect that to go in, but it did, and it won the game, and it basically ended the Blues season.
And I will say for Masyn Winn, that's at least a confidence booster that has started off the season a
100%.
little bit rough for you. To get that bloop single, hopefully it leads to better things.
The lineup is getting a lot of scrutiny, as it should. That's the way this works. Ollie knows that. Everybody knows that. And when they announced Masyn Winn as the cleanup hitter, we were all surprised. I remain a little surprised that they did it. And now I look at it, and, like, frankly, it didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I needed to hear it explained before I was like, I don't get this. Can somebody explain this to me? And so finally, I heard Ollie's explanation for it. And whether you agree with it or not, and there are reasons for both, I at least understand it to a degree. I think it might be one of those things where it's like, hey, you're outsmarting yourself. But, Alex, he does have a point about the late innings. Because once you get into the bullpen, so the reason you do this is, first of all, you get your three best hitters the most at-bats possible. So JJ, Ivan Herrera, Alec Burleson, we would all agree. Those are your three best hitters, right?
Yeah.
So you're getting them more at-bats by putting them toward the top of the lineup. That part makes sense to me. And then, secondary piece to this, you get later in the game, and when the opposing team starts matching up with your players, one of the easiest things to do against this Cardinals lineup right now is, all right, you get to Victor Scott, time to bring in a lefty. Because Scott's not great against lefties. Then you've got a lefty to go up against J.J. Weatherholt, who typically, same-sidedness, you expect that to be the worst side for J.J. Weatherholt. We'll see if that comes to fruition. I don't know how it's going to play in the major leagues, but right now, it's the way that I would also attack J.J. Weatherholt. And then you've got the two-hole hitter that would have to face that lefty. So if you're the Cardinals, that's a spot where, for a lot of people, you'd rather have Masyn Winn. In that situation, the reason why I think it does make some sense is because Ivan Herrera doesn't just hit the crap out of lefty. He is one of the best hitters in Major League Baseball against left-handed pitching right now. Last year against lefties. Now, it's a smaller sample size. It's only 100 at-bats, but that's pretty good, honestly. He hit .330 with a .455 on-base percentage and an OPS of 1,100. In those 97 at-bats against lefties, he had 5 doubles and 9 home runs to go along with 22 ribbies. That is ridiculous, the numbers that he put up against them. Meanwhile, last year against lefties, Masyn Winn hit .255 with an OPS of .662. So Masyn Winn's OPS was the same as Ivan Herrera's slugging percentage last year against lefties. This is why you want Ivan Herrera in that spot, because when you get that lefty who gets to the third player, 3-batter minimum, and he has to go against Ivan Herrera in that spot, he not only is able to get a hit, he's able to punish that left-handed pitcher potentially, and that's the spot where you want Herrera over Masyn Winn. So that's the explanation for it. Now, what some teams are doing is they say, screw it, we just won't pitch to Ivan Herrera, and then you get to Alec Burleson, who's not as good against lefties as he is against righties, and you still deal with the same problem. But now you've got a runner on for Alec Burleson, so, what's better? Herrera getting intentionally walked after seeing JJ and Victor, or having Masyn Winn hit in that spot and not be very good in that spot. I don't know, but that's the decision ultimately they came to.
That was kind of my explanation yesterday with it, too. And, I mean, we just said, like, look, this is where they're at with the team. You're going to get one, and you're not going to be happy with it. Because if Winn's hitting in the 2-hole and Herrera's hitting in the 4 spot, well, then you're going to look at it as, well, if Masyn Winn's not hitting there, well, you kind of kill any momentum that you have in terms of Weatherholt and Herrera and then Burleson. I mean, again, this is just where they're at, but I would much rather prefer to see Ivan Herrera, who is one of your best hitters, right underneath J.J. Weatherholt, hitting in the 2 spot so that I could potentially be scoring at least a run if Weatherholt's getting on base and Herrera's smashing the ball and then Burleson steps to the plate, rather than Weatherholt getting on base, Masyn Winn being a 50-50 for you in the 2 spot, maybe grounding into a double play and killing any hope for it, and then trying to rebuild it. Because after winning the 2 spot, you've got 2 opportunities to get a little bit more momentum, because I don't really trust anything beyond your 4 spot right now.
Who's on first says, are you saying it's a decent decision by the coach? I'm saying it's a defendable decision by Ollie Marmol.
Yeah, there's no decent decision by the coach. You don't have a decent decision.
Yeah,
there's no good options here.
When you're in a rebuild, I think you're looking at it right now with the lineup. There's a lot of things that we're going to look at and go, there are no good decisions.
It's like pitching Brule yesterday. I didn't love it, but what are you going to do?
Yeah, you don't have anybody else to go to.
Exactly.
So, yeah, you can be upset about it, and like if they decide ultimately to eventually flip Winn and Herrera, I'll be like, okay, I totally get it, right?
Absolutely.
Like the problem though for the Cardinals is there's just too many outs to avoid facing Herrera / Burleson in this lineup, and to an extent potentially Weatherholt. We'll see how teams start to attack him. But, like, either way, like, you can either pitch around Herrera. What we're seeing a lot of now with starters already, I brought this up yesterday, they're not pitching to Burley right now. I mean, look at what the Mets did to Burley in Game 2 of that series. It was basically, all right, we're going to nibble on the corners. We'll see if the umpire gives us a call, and if he doesn't, well, damn, guess what? We get to face Masyn Winn.
But the problem is, like, they're doing that to Burley right now. They would just do that to JJ.
Exactly.
So, like, what would I rather see? Burleson do that, or have that happen to my young hitter who's pressing and is trying, in that situation, right? And is trying to make his impact as a leadoff hitter for the Cardinals, and they're not throwing anything in the zone anymore. No, right now they've got to throw stuff into the zone because he's got Ivan Herrera behind him. Yeah. So I would rather protect JJ from that treatment than Alec Burleson, personally. I know it sucks that you have to do it with one or the other, but this is where they're at.
Yeah, well, and I think it goes to show you their amount of trust in Burley. I think Ollie said
Good
this
point.
post-game. I think it was after Game 2, if I remember correctly. But he basically said, like, hey, yeah, Burley's being patient at the plate, and we trust his patience at the plate, that if he doesn't get something to hit, he's going to just take his walk and get on base. But, you know, he's going to get his A swing off if there's a pitch to hit if they make a mistake. So I think it's actually a vote of confidence in favor of Alec Burleson, the way that they trust him, that he's not going to chase after stuff when teams are trying to get him to do that so they can get to Masyn Winn. What I said yesterday is what will determine if they can start to come up with better answers to this problem is if Walker and Gorman start to hit.
Absolutely.
If they can extend the lineup, now you start to talk about a lineup that is 1 through 5? 1 through 5 if you add in those 2 guys, and they've got some pop potentially, and it makes it a little easier to try and blend together this lineup instead of right now where you're looking at it. And let's just be honest, the only players that teams fear right now are Burley and Herrera. I don't think they fear Weatherholt yet just because they don't know what he is, and to be frank, neither do we, honestly. They've only got 2 guys that they got to worry about when they game plan against the Cardinals right now.
From the 816 and a couple of other texts that I want to get to as well. What if you guys were to go Winn, JJ, Ivan Herrera, and Burley as your top 4? So Winn batting leadoff with JJ, Ivan, and Burley as your 2, 3, 4. You could do that, but then what you're asking for is Masyn Winn to get more at-bats than anybody else on the roster right now, and people don't seem to want him to get any at-bats right now.
And do you believe he can get on base at a better clip than J.J. Weatherholt?
No. This is why, like, I like J.J. Weatherholt in leadoff spot right now. I think it's working.
I agree.
What they had planned for is working there. The problem right now is the cleanup spot, and what T-Bone just said is 100% true. You just don't have a cleanup hitter. And I don't know about you guys. I don't want them to move Jordan Walker up there yet.
I don't either.
Just leave him where he's at. Let's see if this can sustain for another month. Because I've been very happy with the way that we've seen him play for the first week. It's 1 week. Let's see it a little longer. I don't need to put any added pressure. Like, just don't touch it. It's like for some people, they're superstitious at home when they're watching a basketball game or whatever. Team goes on a run. I'm not moving from this spot. I will not move. I got to pee. Doesn't matter. I got to go get another beer. Somebody else go get it for me.
Have a water bottle
That's me
close
during
by.
the Illinois game.
Right now with Jordan Walker, everybody stay still. Just leave it be. You just, hey, only good situations. You see a pitcher on the opposing side that you don't think is a good spot for him, keep that mindset where it's at. Take him out. Put him in when the lefty comes in. But right now, we don't need him to lose any of this confidence. Only positive feedback for Jordan Walker, please.
Keep your negativity to yourself.
That would be one thing. The other one, from the 314, guys, remember in spring training when there was a guy that hit 300 and also had a bunch of pop? What if we had him hitting 4th? You're referring to Nelson Velasquez, I'm assuming.
Yeah, the guy that's, 0 for 11 right now?
I think 1 for 11.
Oh,
with,
good.
I think it's
Credit
5
for that.
strikeouts.
That one was a home run, I would imagine, right?
I don't think so.
No, it's a single. It's a single.
Guys,
Probably an expecting batting average of 192.
Nelson Velasquez ain't changing this team. Not for the better, at least.
Probably would have worked if he came up with a team instead he was told he sucks
When you
by
could have
BK
given him
and-
confidence on winning the job in spring training, you probably would have been better.
That's not. You just see a lot more strikeouts instead of weak grounders to second base. The way that we have been seeing, you just see a lot more strikeouts batting cleanup. If that was the direction that you wanted to go in.
What's the difference in Masyn Winn, man? He's
At
striking
least
out
when
a
he
lot
hits
too.
the ball, it's hit hard with a better than 190
theory,
expected batting average.
In theory, but so far in AAA, that also hasn't been the
Well,
case, and that's against AAA pitching instead of against Major
It's a
League
small
pitching.
sample
I
size.
don't like your tone again.
Yeah.
Why is it both Cardinal segments you're
and
using
why is
tone?
it always with Velasquez?
Because I'm the only one that appears to be honest about what he is.
he didn't
Jose Fermin
He didn't
hitting.
break that Royals rebuild, okay?
How's
You're
Jose
right.
Fermin hitting, by the way?
Somebody said, name a man BK hates more than Nelson. I don't hate
Barbashev.
Nelson
Barbashev.
Velasquez.
Yep, Ivan Barbashev.
Okay.
That man despised Ivan Barbashev. Get him off my roster.
That's also not true.
So what? You can hit guys and score goals. You don't deserve a
Out of
raise.
curiosity, would he lead the Blues in goals if he was on him this
I
year?
think he's in 20, so yeah.
Yikes. BK.
Has he got 20?
What a miss by you. I'm looking right now.
I guarantee he's got 20 goals.
21.
Oh, my God.
He'd be 4 up on the next closest player.
Yep.
53 points, I think, would lead the Blues too, right?
No, Thomas has got like 58, I think.
So 2023, I'm just trying to think.
Trying to think of who else you've hated more than Velasquez.
No. Who would they have had to get rid of from the roster if they didn't trade him that offseason?
Barbashev?
Yeah.
Well, you could have just not gone and signed Kevin Hayes.
I would have been on that.
Oh, and Nick Leddy.
Yeah.
I would have been on that too.
But then you also wouldn't have been able to bring back Perron. So you wouldn't have Leddy or Perron or Kevin Hayes. You wouldn't have had anybody.
I thought we did this math, though, and I looked at it, and like you could have kept Barbashev and Perron and been fine.
Yeah, you just wouldn't have been able to bring in like Kasperi Kapanen and who was the other one?
Jakub
Vrana.
Vrana was making like $4 million. Yeah. Darn. Shoot. Let's go get Kevin Hayes to replace these
You know
guys
who'd
that
be
are
really good on the Blues right now?
Kevin Hayes?
No, Ivan Barbashev.
Yeah.
He'd be awesome. He's exactly what they need on that second line, in all seriousness.
Coming from a guy that was like, get him off my roster.
Given the roster construction at the
You know
time,
who
it
else
didn't
would be
really
really
make
good
sense.
for a second line center position? Ryan O'Reilly.
Yeah.
Good thing you gave his money to Kevin Hayes for a year and then had to pay to get rid
It's
of him.
almost like we should have kept the band together.
Yeah, probably should have.
Again, I didn't want them to trade Ivan Barbashev, just like
You
I don't
called
want
for it
them
every
to
week.
time out, just like I don't want them to hit Masyn Winn cleanup. It is a result of their own actions, though. When you put yourself into the spot that the Blues were in, you can't re-sign Ivan Barbashev. It just didn't make sense to do so, which means you got to trade him, and they ended up getting a pretty terrible return for it, but they traded him nonetheless. And with the Cardinals right now, I don't want them to have to bat Masyn Winn cleanup, but they don't have a better option right now.
So trade him.
Hopefully that changes sooner rather than later. But for today, he's your guy, and yesterday he came up in a really, really big spot. And that's what you got to ask for.
And trade him,
You need
probably.
more of that. I do think Masyn Winn, by the way, is going to be better than what he's been. He's been terrible so far
I mean,
this
it's a
year.
low bar.
Yeah, he's been hitting 160. He's not slugging at all. He's not getting on base. Like, Masyn Winn's going to be fine. He's going to be much better than this, but it's been a really tough start for the
It's
season.
better than Nathan Church.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That didn't go well
That
for you.
experiment feels like it's slowly already coming to an end.
well, I wouldn't go that far.
Remember when you
but
tried
I'm
to like
willing to go
convince
that
us
far.
that he had more pressure than Jordan Walker on him?
I still believe that. I mean, he's
I think that one's fair.
potentially at risk of being
Yeah.
replaced soon.
By who? Who would he be replaced by?
So, JC.
So, JC, yeah.
Oh, I thought you were going to say
Just get
Nelson
more
Velasquez.
opportunities for Sajasi.
But I forgot you hate Nelson Velasquez.
No, we can't bring him up.
Yeah, we got Fermin on the
BK would
roster.
rather see Fermin.
I think they're more likely to bring
We'd
up
see
like
Pozo
Joshua
in left.
Baez than
Ooh, you want to see Pozo in left?
no. But who do you think is the guy that's most likely to come up soon? We'll get into that later on today. 314-399-9646.
So think
That's
about
the
it.
Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. But next time for some NFL quick hitters, including some pretty disappointing news for one of T-Bone's favorite players on the Rams. It's going to be a very important season for him. Maybe more important than just about anybody in the NFL. We'll explain why next year on 101 ESPN. All right, let's dive into some NFL quick hitters. You want to start with Puka, T-Bone?
No.
How many times did you guys have to read this yesterday before realizing this is not an April Fool's joke?
Because I fell for an April Fool's that Wetherholt got optioned to Memphis. So.
Are you serious?
T-Bone
Yeah,
fell.
I blame Deal in the Cards podcast.
Not on the air. He fell for it in the morning.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
He told
You
me.
actually thought it was real?
Yeah, okay. No.
Well, you don't have to be that, okay? We've all fallen for him before.
You're going to go here.
I mean, I've fallen for some stupid stuff.
Can I explain it real quick? I had a BK type morning where I was kind of running behind, and I overslept a little bit. So I was running a little bit behind.
I was running behind today because I had to drive my 2-year-old.
No, I was. I know.
I was addressing the other times that you slept in.
Yeah, and you were going to kind of throw me under the bus there, so I was going to just return the shot. So that kind of happened yesterday. So I was a little bit behind schedule based on when I would normally be up. So I was just a little frantic, morning speeds up on you a little bit. And the first thing I saw when I opened Twitter was Wetherholt had been optioned, and it came from Dealing with the Cards. It's a podcast that does some really good stuff. So I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this just happened. And then I start scrolling and I'm looking, I go, no, wait, nobody else is saying this. And then I saw someone comment on it and said April Fool's. And I went, bleep, it's freaking April 1st.
I hate April 1st.
So yeah, it happens.
I hate April 1st so much. I think it's the dumbest holiday that there is. And I think people that try and get you with pranks are stupid.
I also thought the Winn wreck yesterday was an April Fool's thing.
Yeah, but
I thought that was confirmed.
Yeah. Sounds like Masyn Winn, by the way, is okay. He posted on social media just a little bit ago that he's doing all right.
Did you see on TNT that they tried to get Biz with an April Fool's joke? They had Friedman put out like a tweet that said like goalie fighting is now banned in hockey. And the moment they did it, Biz was like, come on, man, I'm dumb, but I'm not that dumb. That's how I feel on April 1st.
LA Rams receiver Puka Nacua, according to ESPN.com, has checked into rehab, his attorney told them. Last month, a woman filed a lawsuit against Puka alleging that he made an unprovoked anti-Semitic statement on New Year's Eve and then bit her on the shoulder. His attorney says he was in rehab a substantial amount of time before any of these allegations broke. He is scheduled to be there a while longer, end quote. First of all, hope the guy's okay. And I hope he gets the help that he needs. That's ultimately the most important thing here. Second of all, we had a conversation a week or two ago now when all of this stuff kind of broke where we were like, somebody needs to talk to Puka and tell him like, hey, dude, you've got to chill. Like all of this stuff that's going on away from the field is going to screw up your money. It's going to screw up your future. You have a chance to go down as one of the most productive, one of the most highly paid receivers ever. You have that chance. But this stuff that's going on away from the field is going to ruin all of that if you're not careful. And so I am happy to see that somebody clearly got to him, or maybe it was himself, whatever the case, and he's going out there and trying to correct, you would think, some of the stuff that's going on away from the field. I hope it works. I hope the guy gets himself into the right mindset, the right mental place to where he can be a lengthy, tenured NFL wide receiver because he's remarkable to watch on the field. But man, if you're the Rams, this is your one chance, Puka. This is it. And this year is a make or break kind of a year. Forget the production. We know what the guy can do on the field. From now until the end of the regular season, Puka's got to be able to just keep himself out of the public limelight. Just do stuff that doesn't get you into trouble, doesn't get you into the headlines. And if you can do that, they'll probably reward him with the biggest receiver contract in the history of the NFL. If he can't, though, they can't re-sign him. They can't extend this guy because of everything that's happening away from the field. T-Bone, I know you're a Rams fan. I'm curious your thoughts on the situation.
Yeah, I'm glad he's seeking the help that he feels like he needs. But I'm with you. If you're the Rams, you cannot sign him right now. And I think he would reset the market. I think he'd get more than what the JSN deal was. I said this at the time before all this stuff came out with Puka. When JSN signed that contract, I went, oh, bleep, the Rams didn't get to this first. Because now you got to pay him just a little bit more than what JSN got. But you can't do it until you see that he's able to just stay out of the headlines for a full year, right? And it's not even just like the stuff he's done. Remember, he was making headlines towards the end of the push last year where he was tweeting about the officials, and was Sean pissed when he had to find out about it on the podium. yeah, I don't think you can extend him. I think you have to wait a year now. You almost have to go through potentially even the franchise tag process of this, because you cannot pay this guy when right now you don't know what he's going to be away from the field. So hopefully he gets the help he's able to get back and just able to stay out of the headlines. And this is the one moment, right? This is the one chance he gets, the 1 second chance he's going to get here. And he gets everything corrected and ends up getting his money. I hope that works out for him, because he is a hell of a football player.
Somebody from the 618 said, if they don't pay him, somebody else gladly will. Another 618. This is not his only chance. He will have opportunities all across the league nonstop. Duh.
I think he'll get another shot. Somebody will pay him, and then that is your final chance.
This is his chance to become the highest paid receiver in the NFL, though.
Yeah. This is your chance to cement your legacy, because if this is on you and the Rams move on from you, I don't know how successful you're going to be as a receiver when you get cut by a team that was supposed to pay you as the number one
and
guy.
They won't have to cut him. They'll just move on. They'll wipe their hands. He's got 1 year left on his deal. But after that, they can franchise tag him and trade him, and so he's somebody else's problem. And my guess is that other team would just have him on the franchise tag. They probably would not extend him on a long-term contract, because you can't trust him right now. That's the honest to God reality of the situation. You cannot trust this guy to be on a 3 to 4 year guaranteed deal. And that's really what's at stake here for Puka. Is he going to be booted out of the league? Well, if more stuff like this happens, he'll get suspended eventually.
Yeah.
He'll get into the Rashee Rice territory. I'm not trying to compare the two situations and what they have done off of the field, but the league does not like it when their name is put out there and it's associated with actions that are unbecoming of the league. That is conduct detrimental, and it quickly will get you suspended for 6+ games. That's what's looming out there. So, again, I hope that the guy is able to get this thing back on track, because it's been a lot of really negative storylines surrounding Puka Nacua basically since the middle of last season and beyond. All right, the other thing that I wanted to get to real quick, did you guys see this story about Jalen Hurts yesterday? Talk about it at all on the air yesterday? I don't know.
No, I don't think we got that. We did a pretty quick NFL quick hitters.
So Jalen Hurts, it sure sounds like everybody associated with the Eagles dude, this guy is a nightmare to work with. And he's changing stuff offensively. Doesn't matter who the offense coordinator is. I kind of have to run things his way, because it's his way or the highway. You want to talk about a make or break season? Maybe you disagree with me on Puka. Maybe you think, hey, he's going to get a million different chances. He's unbelievably talented, blah, blah, blah. This is a make or break season for Jalen Hurts. It feels like this could be heading in the same direction as the Russell Wilson thing in Seattle, where Russ won the Super Bowl. The guy was wildly successful for a number of years there. And then eventually people were like, we're done with this. Let's get out of this situation with Russ. We need to go a new direction. We are very close to trending in that way with Jalen Hurts, guys. I think he's got one more year to prove he can get back to what he was in that Super Bowl winning season. And if he doesn't, I would not be surprised at all if they decide to trade him next offseason, Alex.
Yeah, I think the Eagles themselves are at a final year before this thing looks very different, because you put A.J. Brown into the same conversation with Jalen Hurts, and then the whole coaching conversation. This could look like a very different team. But I'm with you on Jalen Hurts. How long have we been talking about it and saying, he and Sirianni don't get along? Well, makes sense now that you're kind of seeing the other side of it. I still don't like Sirianni very much, but if Jalen Hurts is going out there and doing whatever he wants and is difficult to work with, well, this is why your team can have trouble. So unless you're willing to adapt and get back to what it was, or your ability to improv throughout a season when you're on the field leads to a Super Bowl, you become a problem, and the Eagles don't seem like a team that's going to deal with problems.
Yeah, it feels like they are teetering as an organization on a complete reset. It's with the quarterback in Jalen Hurts, who, I don't understand his thing of, hey, I need to be running this offense. Dude, when the Eagles were playing their best, you weren't even the guy, right? It was Saquon that was carrying the load for the Philadelphia Eagles.
To the Seahawks.
Yeah, it was Marshawn. Yeah. But they feel like an organization. It is a huge pivotal year for them, because you can kind of get out of the Hurts deal starting after next season.
Yep.
You can move on from Sirianni, and then you can just kind of reset everything, right? New coach, new quarterback, boom, let's make it happen. It feels like a huge year for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, and if this doesn't go well, it's a complete reset. It also makes you wonder, maybe this is why people didn't get super upset about the whole A.J. Brown stuff. where he's kind of publicly taking shots at his quarterback. You never really heard anybody inside of the locker room saying, like, hey, AJ, shut your mouth. it was more about like, hey, man, yeah, go ahead and say what you need to say.
He's speaking the truth.
We're all in agreement. AJ's just the only one that's willing to say it out loud. Makes me wonder, also, speaking of AJ Brown, the Puka stuff starts to make the AJ Brown rumors for the Rams make a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Where if he was their answer to, like, insulating themselves from a potential Puka suspension, whatever is going on here long term, that explains it. On AJ Brown, though, with the Eagles, if I'm another team and I'm seeing all of this stuff come out, I'm now suddenly that much more interested in trading for A.J. Brown again.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe this is just a Randy Moss situation where it's just gone horribly awry, and wherever he goes next, he's going to be the exact same dude that he used to be.
Yeah. I kind of wonder if it helps A.J. Brown, too, to the point where it's like it maybe Hurts is a problem, and A.J. Brown is actually going to get away from that and become a little bit easier to deal with. We talked about the Hard Knocks decision yesterday. That's the team that should be on Hard Knocks.
Oh, the Eagles?
Eagles. Oh, my gosh. Are you kidding me? The drama surrounding that team.
I don't think there would be
television.
flowers being thrown out there for Jalen Hurts like we saw with Rodgers when he was there with was it Pittsburgh or no, New York, the Jets.
That's must-watch television right there.
So we've got the Seahawks next year and then the Patriots the following year?
Yeah.
I wonder if we're going to get anything of substance from either of those two.
I think the Patriots would be. I told him, I said, I think they should have flipped it. Patriots should have been this year. The team that missed out on the Super Bowl, the team that kind of is taking that next step. What's their offseason look like? I think this one is just a throwaway year.
So for me, I find it really interesting, like trying to replace Kenneth Walker, trying to repeat all of these different things. The reason that I said I wonder if we'll get anything of substance is because why would these teams agree to do it? Unless the NFL has told them, listen, you got nothing to worry about. We're going to make sure this is like
we saw the Giants whole thing.
The most boring thing you've ever seen on television.
Well, that's
going to be awful.
To put out there.
I hear you, but
I've lost interest in the Hard Knock stuff. I'm out.
I'm with you.
I don't really care anymore. The NFL's gotten
really
so
good,
much.
but it's just,
if you're going to do this,
cut it so dry.
If you're going to do this, you need to treat it like reality television, and you need to make it to where people are watching it. And I think you need to pick the team that's with the most soap operas, but the teams aren't willing to do that.
Exactly. They don't want to see. The only team that's willing to do that is the Cowboys.
So then you need. Well,
all right, we could follow them around.
You need to just scrap the idea in general because that's the only reason people are going to watch it. Not people still watch, but it's not entertaining if you don't have any drama.
That's why the Cowboys do that Netflix series for their cheerleaders.
Yeah,
it's reality TV,
it, buddy. Never watched.
You
it.
haven't?
No,
it's really good.
Is it like Love Island?
No.
Love is Blind. What is it? What does he watch?
I don't watch Love Island. That one's not for me. I'm just a Love is Blind guy.
I'm a big Dr. Pimple Popper guy.
Are you?
No, I brought that up yesterday.
Oh, God.
No, we accidentally turned it on.
Yeah, we turned it on. I was like,
We were both like, turn it off.
Yeah. I was worried that you were being serious.
No, I'm not serious, buddy.
Coming up in about 10 minutes, we'll dive into the junk drawer. But next, the Doug Armstrong conversation is not going anywhere, but that doesn't make it any more real. We'll get into that next here on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here with a Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Last night, the Blues fell to the LA Kings in overtime 2-1. They'll be back in action tomorrow night when they visit the Anaheim Ducks. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 8 o'clock with Alex Ferrario. Puck drop at 9 o'clock with Chris Kerber and Joey Vitale. And the Cardinals yesterday took down the Mets 2-1 in extra innings as they take 2 of 3 from New York. They are off today as they head to Detroit, where tomorrow they will start a 3-game set with the Tigers. 12:10 will be first pitch tomorrow. Framber Valdez will be on the mound for the Tigers. Michael McGreevy gets the start for St. Louis. The Sports Center update was brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. All right, so the Doug Armstrong conversation just isn't going to go away.
No,
Yesterday, I saw Frank Saravalli. T-Bone, we don't even need to play the audio.
I know. Saravalli just loves to stir the pot.
So he goes on, what was it, Sportsnet up there, and says basically, yeah, you know, I don't know if the Blues would even stand in the way of this. Seems like a good fit.
A day after Darren Dreger was like, yeah, I've been told that nobody in the Blues has any appetite to let him go next season.
I should be clear on what I'm talking about. Doug Armstrong as the Toronto Maple Leafs new general manager. That's the thing that everybody in Toronto seems to want, and it's the thing that the media is pushing. Mm-hmm. I don't think that makes it any more likely, Alex.
No.
There is no reason for the Blues to allow this. He is under contract with St. Louis, so that's one side of things. The other side of things is what we saw yesterday from Toronto, where the Maple Leafs president came out and said the following, quote, "The new general manager has to be data-centric. The candidates have to really understand data and the importance of data and where data is moving. Every single decision that we make will need to be evidence-based. Evidence-based decisions are never wrong. That's not to say that there's not room for the heart. That doesn't mean there's not room to check culture, but it has to be evidence-based." I don't get the sense that that's necessarily Doug Armstrong's jam. Now, I do think Doug Armstrong, takes in all of the information. Don't get me wrong. We've talked to him about this.
Yeah.
He is somebody that is willing to utilize the information. But this idea that he's going to be the next Ivy League Kyle Dubas
or Eric Tulsky in Carolina. He is the guy that I think he's the only data-driven general manager in the National Hockey League.
That ain't Doug Armstrong.
Carolina?
Yeah.
I mean, they're the number one team in their division.
Fair, Kyle Dubas is also doing very well with Pittsburgh Penguins right now. It's worked in some of the places that it's been tried. I don't think this is inherently a bad idea.
No, yeah.
It's just not going to lead you to Doug Armstrong as your top candidate.
No, and I mean, Doug surrounds himself with the right people. Ryan Miller, his assistant GM,
Absolutely.
is very data driven, and they've built up their analytics program over these last couple of years. So, I don't think hearing him, the Maple Leafs president, saying that, to me is oh yeah, Doug's not getting this job. It's just they're going to be looking for, in my opinion, a younger individual who is going to follow the trend of the National Hockey League. And I don't think that is Doug Armstrong, but I also see a scenario that if Doug Armstrong was available, they'd say, well, we want him, and then we'll surround him with a lot of data analytics individuals. Because the person that Friedman brought up is Mike Gillis. And for people that don't know, Mike Gillis was the former general manager in the Vancouver Canucks organization. He stepped in, and the moment he came to the Vancouver Canucks, he got rid of Marcus Naslund, he got rid of another one of their future Hall of Famers, and he brought in just a flurry of star players and made them what they became. So, to me, they're going to want an aggressive general manager who can step in and turn it from one thing to the other, which is Doug Armstrong. But they also want the data side of it, the analytics side of it. And that's not Doug Armstrong. So, I think he's just casting a wide net and saying, this is the direction we want to go. But frankly, we just need somebody who can come in and paint us a picture of where this thing needs to get to.
Yeah, I don't know. When I read this, I thought to myself, if that's the direction that you're going, that's not Doug Armstrong. And that's okay. That is not to say, speak ill will of what Army is as a general manager. But everybody operates differently. Different GMs have different ways. This sounds very much more like Heimblum of hockey. And again, that is not a good or a bad thing. It's just the way that they operate, right? Everybody is a little different in what they utilize as their information. Some people lean more one way, other people lean more in a different way. What I hear here is Kyle Dubas. It's the guy that's leading the Carolina Hurricanes.
It's funny, the guy that they kicked out for Brad Treliving.
This is not, we're going to go, when you say something like this does not scream to me, we're going to go hire Doug Armstrong. In fact, it's almost the opposite of what I would think when I hear, what am I acquiring in Doug Armstrong?
And it would make me think they already know they're not getting then Doug Armstrong, right? Because if he was available, I think you have to have that conversation, right? I mean, you see the success Army's had. You have to have that phone call. Even if you do lean data-centric is what you think the next guy is, because they're basically swinging the pendulum from the Dubas to the Treliving and swinging back to the Dubas. My guess is they've probably already reached out to the Blues, or they've kind of back-channeled their way and found out, okay, he can't get out of his contract. So, yeah, we'll definitely say that we want the data-centric guy.
Or maybe they didn't even need to, because they don't want to. They would like to go back to something that they had previously, because for all of his faults, and there were many, Kyle Dubas worked out a hell of a lot better than what they've been doing over the last couple of years. This has been a disaster.
Terrible idea.
Everything that's happened in Toronto has been a nightmare scenario. Austin Matthews is probably going to ask out at some point. I don't know if that'll happen now, but at some point, I don't think Austin Matthews is going to be there for the long term in Toronto. And so what are you building around? Just William Nylander? And Matthew Nyes?
Nylander said yesterday that, like, he doesn't want to go anywhere. He said, I want to be here if it's a retool. He said, if it's a rebuild, we'll have different conversations.
Yeah, but that's it. That's all you got. And then you got a whole lot of nothing behind them right now. And you've got a cap sheet that doesn't exactly look stellar either. So it's a nightmare situation right now for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Alex, on the Blues side of things, there is the rumors that are popping back up. Speaking of something that just will not go away. Brady Tkachuk did a podcast with his brother and his father.
Season.
It got a lot of buzz, especially in Ottawa. Mm-hmm. Those fans are just really not happy.
Yeah, I think they're done.
And I don't know. I don't know what the future is going to hold here, Alex. I have pushed back against this idea that Brady Tkachuk could become available for quite some time. I don't know that I'm pushing back as hard anymore.
Yeah, I think I'm not either.
I'm starting to wonder if maybe this is going to be a real thing this offseason. And if it is, this is what we've been talking about for the Blues. This is what they're missing. Is he a perfect player? Is he his brother? No. He's pretty damn good, though. And the kind of player that if you have him, Snuggerud, and Holloway in your top six, now you have the makings of what a legit top six should look like when it comes to your forwards.
Yeah, I mean, you need another top tier player on your roster, and I don't think this noise is going to go away. I think this is just going to get even louder over the next few weeks. The noise has really picked up since the Olympics. Obviously, with we don't have to get political here, but Brady's tied to USA and everything that comes with it. And
talking about the Attorney General? Or?
No, I'm not.
Coming up next, juncture.
I think people in Canada aren't happy about everything that's taken place post-Olympics with him. And then now you get the podcast with
They're
Brady.
upset about Iran, too? I'm kidding.
Oh, my God. We just need to go to break here. Just turn his mic off, T-Bone.
Would have been safer that way.
So I guess here's my question to you on the Brady Tkachuk thing, in all seriousness.
Well, now we're getting serious.
What do you think this is going to look like? Like, what does the sweepstakes look like when he becomes available? Because he's got a no move, right?
Yeah, he's got a no move.
So he gets to ultimately determine. My guess is it'll kind of be similar to what Matthew's situation was, where he gives a list of here's like the 5 teams that I'm interested in, and then you try to get a bidding war going on all of that. But do you think St. Louis would be included in such a list, Alex?
I do.
And do you think they'll be more aggressive this time around? Because for all the talk with Matthew, and we thought it was a real thing, I think it was a real thing. I don't know how aggressive they actually were in trying to make that deal. Do you think that'll change this time around?
I think it has to change this time around. I think if you're viewing your team as we need to pick a direction and this is the direction, you need another top-tier talent. And this might be the offseason to do it in terms of what you stockpiled into your system, in terms of what you're having this offseason, and in terms of some NHL players that might need a change of scenery. And you also look at the Brady side of things. Like, just go off of the list that Matthew put out there back in 2022. That list had the Florida Panthers, which I have to imagine is going to be probably the top choice from Brady. I don't see how Florida can pull that one off. St. Louis, obviously. Nashville was on there for Matthew Tkachuk. I think that's going to change for a guy like Brady because they're going in a different direction. Dallas and Vegas are going to be there no matter what. The Rangers were on Matthew's list. I don't think that's going to be on Brady's list. And the Devils. Like, the Blues are going to be towards the top of that conversation in terms of preferred destination. You know, he's got a little one. His dad, his family's in St. Louis. The ties of his dad playing for St. Louis. Steen taking over as general manager, who was very tight with his dad. They played together in St. Louis before Big Walt retired. That's going to be real. And I think the Blues are going to have the ammunition, maybe more ammunition now to go after Brady than what they had when Matthew was available. Because really the ammunition they had was just Thomas and Kyrou. Like, if you think back to when he was available in 2022, they had just drafted Jake Neighbors, if I'm not mistaken. Snuggerud was drafted that offseason, and your pipeline wasn't as strong as it is now.
Draft picks. Kyrou was, I think, the piece that we were talking about at the time. I'd have to go back to look at exactly what we were discussing at that moment.
But your pipeline was middle of the pack.
It was like Perunovic and Kyrou.
Yeah, and like we were talking Krug in terms of the NHL level. Like,
just for salary filler.
You didn't have the pipeline or the prospect capital to make the trade for Brady that you do now. Like, the reason you've stockpiled all of this stuff is to do it. So, yeah, I think they get aggressive with this one, but I don't think they're going to get out over their skis and be like, yeah, we'll give you 4 of our top guys for Brady Tkachuk, because like you just mentioned, Brady's got all the say in this. And if you find out that St. Louis is one of the teams, all right, well, we're going to give you something that we deem a reasonable return. We're not going to overpay for this one.
We did have a couple of people say, guys, what happened on this podcast? Why did this make so much news? So a lot of it is like predetermined, right? The people in Ottawa just appear to be...
People have tight butt cheeks in Ottawa right now because of the playoff situation, because Ullmark with his mental health issues and coming in and out of the games. People are very sensitive right now for a team that's missed the playoffs pretty consistently.
And so they're looking for reasons to be upset.
Yeah.
And there are... If you were looking for them, I suppose, were reasons to be upset about this. There were a couple of comments about like injuries and guys not playing through stuff, and that if you wanted to see it, could be viewed as a slight to Ullmark or other guys on the Ottawa Senators not playing through some of their injuries, especially as they're in the midst of what is a really tight race right now. So that's one thing that was mentioned here. But a lot of it was just like, you know how the Tkachuks operate. They banter. They go back and forth. They say stuff, right? They're loud and they're brash and they're fun.
They're not afraid to say anything.
So a lot of it is just them being them.
Mm-hmm.
And when they get together and they say things and you're a fan base that's already predisposed to being upset about things, you're looking for things to be upset. It's like when me and my wife will sometimes... Sorry, I was going to say you and your wife, but that's unfair. I don't know how you guys operate at home, so I'll use me. When me and my wife, if one or the other is upset with the other person, there could be nothing that's actually said that should upset either of us, but you're looking for something to be mad about. Sensitive. And so the next thing then becomes what sets you off.
Well, and frankly, it's also not even what Brady said. It's what Keith said. Like,
Correct.
People are upset that Keith said that Ottawa's a little bit soft. Not wrong. I've heard people say that before.
Play well.
They're upset that he talked about how Grant Fuhrer back in the day would basically play no matter what. Kind of a shot at Linus Ullmark, who hasn't been playing a lot of games because of course, him being open and honest about his mental health issues. So I think this is just Ottawa looking for reasons to say, all right, we're done with this. Because again, this goes back to the Olympics. I think people weren't happy with how that was handled with the Tkachuk brothers and celebrating Team USA's win.
I was about to say, like, we can't avoid it. Part of this is political.
It absolutely
there's just no way to avoid that is real.
He plays in a Canadian market, and Team USA beat Canada in the Olympics and celebrated and put it all out on social media, and Ottawa's not happy.
Related. Like, it's also like legitimately politically driven in some of this, where like, hey man, the U.S.-Canadian relations are not exactly what they were 10 years ago. Right. And you can agree with that, disagree with that. That doesn't really matter. It's not about how you feel toward those political stances. It's about how that plays toward that specific audience. And I don't know that Brady really cares. He can feel however he wants to. But now when you get into this situation where, again, people are kind of looking for reasons to be mad, that's part of it.
Well, and I mean, you also have to imagine, like, he's got a family. They're living in Canada. Like, if an entire country doesn't really like you, how do you want to be there right now? So I think all of this starts if they miss the playoffs. If they get into the playoffs, I think that silences a little bit because they're happy. Brady, a part of the team that made it to the postseason, and everything gets a little bit quiet. If they miss the postseason, which right now it's them, Detroit, and Philadelphia fighting for that spot, all outside looking in. If they miss it, that noise continues to get loud, and I do believe Brady might get to the point where it's like, all right, this is enough.
What do you think is the best offer the Blues could make here, realistically?
Kyrou.
Because you're not trading Thomas. No. I've seen a lot of that where
and you're not trading Carbonneau.
It's not happening.
I don't think they're going to trade Jiricek either, and frankly, I don't think how much Ottawa wants a Jiricek.
Would you trade Carbonneau? If they said, we can't make this deal without having Carbonneau as a part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I would
too.
Yeah, I just, to me, the deal that would make the most sense for the Blues, and people are not going to like what I'm about to say, Kyrou, Neighbors, and probably Detroit's first-round pick.
I think so, too.
Ottawa's going to say, we want your first-round pick, and I got to imagine the Blues would be like, that's not happening. Maybe you get to the point where you're like, yeah, fine, let's do it because you want to make the team better. But I think the best offer that if the Blues can provide is Kyrou, Neighbors, another prospect that you'd throw in there, maybe a goaltending prospect because Ottawa's got some goaltending issues, and then you're going to throw in that first-round pick.
I think the only assets I would not make available in this trade. Now, there's like, not all of them could go together, but the only assets I would not make available in this trade are Thomas, Snuggerud, Holloway, Broberg, Hofer. I think that's it.
I'd put Jiricek in there, too. I think you need another defenseman on this team.
If it came to it and that was the deal breaker, I think I'd do it. At the end of the day.
It'd be tough, but...
You know, like I need that piece. I think that Jiricek has a chance to be very good. The prospect profile that we read the other day was number 4 defenseman. This guy's a legit top-line winger immediately. Ready to go, under market value contract today, and he can come in and be the face of the franchise for the next decade. If I have to give up a guy that I think can be a second-pair defenseman for that I know is it right now, I got to do it.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, it would make sense if you keep your first-round pick because you're going to be drafting in the top 5, top 6. You might just be able to replace Jiricek with a guy that might be there faster. So, but that's what you're looking at. Again, Brady's a little bit lesser than Matthew, but you go back and look at Matthew and what that got. That got a 100-point player, a young offensive defenseman, and a first-round pick. You're talking a offensive player, probably 2 offensive players to replace Brady Tkachuk, a top-tier prospect, and a first-round pick.
Alongside Alex Ferrario and Tanner Hendrickson, I'm Brandon Kiley. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. It's 12:59. Your time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. Coming up in 15 minutes, we'll get into Believe It or Not. It's time for us to sing. 314-399-9646. That is the Air Comfort Service text line. If you guys have a scenario, we will tell you if we are believing it or not here on BK and Ferrario. But next, which style of play is more sustainable for these Redbirds? We'll talk about that next here on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. This is hilarious. Just saw this from TSN Hockey.
Oh, jeez.
BK and Ferrario say.
Their morning show breaks down the Kachuk Brothers podcast, Stirring the Pot with Senators fans.
Yeah. It's going to be there.
Oh, yeah.
All off season.
It's going to grow louder, not more quiet.
Uh-huh. And, if you're Ottawa, if you want the best return for Brady Kachuk, it's probably this offseason, because next offseason, you're going to get him for 1 year, and he's a UFA, and he decides where he wants to go, and he ain't signing a contract extension unless it's a team he wants to be at long term. So I don't think teams are going to pay the price to get him now or then than what they would do now.
All right, so we've already spent 17 minutes on it. We don't have to continue there. We'll talk about, I would assume, more about that tomorrow, maybe certainly in the future. The Cardinals have now won games 9-7 and 6-5. And they've won games 3-0 and 2-1. Alex, what do you think the majority of their games will look like this year when they win? Like, do you think they're more of a we win in high-scoring affairs, or we win in pitching duels? Which one is more closely going to resemble what you think this Cardinals team is long-term?
It's the second one, but I don't even know if I would label it pitching duels. It would be tight baseball games because of elite defense and manufacturing runs. Like, I heard them talking on the broadcast yesterday about how they were going to approach scoring that run in extras. And they were talking about you moving the guy over, where you had Pages come up and try and bunt, and he couldn't bunt him over. And they were talking about how this is how Ali likes to work. He likes to work in terms of manufacturing those runs and finding ways to put them in the best positions possible. I think you're going to see this team unload for offense at times. I think they are more likely to win baseball games by having pitchers keep it close, having it be really because of how elite your defense can be in center field and in the middle infield position, and then it's going to be low-scoring affairs where the team can come out on top in extras.
Yeah, I think it's low-scoring games, and I think it will be based on pitching duels. I think the rotation's going to have to do what it's done for the most part, which is give us 5-6 acceptable innings, and we'll turn it to the bullpen, and the bullpen, it becomes lights out like they were in this Mets series. That's going to be how they win baseball games this year, because they're 14th in slugging percentage right now in baseball through 6 games. I would expect that to come down. I think they're going to end up being a bottom 10 slugging team. And then you look at their on base, and their on base is 24th in baseball right now. I think it's probably going to be somewhere in that range. I don't think they've got a bunch of great on base guys in this order. So I don't expect the offense to be able to do what they did against Tampa Bay, where they're scoring 6+ runs, 5+ runs on a consistent basis. It's going to have to be low scoring, and when you play with the style that they claim they're going to play, and they've done a pretty good job of so far, which is we're going to manufacture runs and we're going to single you to death. It's death
favorite.
by 1,000 paper cuts. Okay, so basically we need our pitching to pitch well, because you're not going to be able to string together a bunch of hits for multiple innings in a bunch of games where you're going up against good pitching. So, yeah, I think it's more of what it was in this Mets series is how they're going to have to win ball games this year.
Yeah, I think that's more likely. Splashback Deuce over on the YouTube chat says, why does there have to be one way? Baseball can be played many ways. No doubt. And ideally, you can win in every way, right? The best teams in Major League Baseball can win no matter the style of game. They can win 3-0. They can win 10-5. It doesn't matter. Whatever you want to play, that's what they'll play. Or they'll just beat you at your game, whatever that may be. The reason why I think it matters for the Cardinals is because it can dictate strategy, right? If the Cardinals go into a game and they know this is the way that we're going to have to play, then you get the Pedro Pages bunts, right? You get moving runners over more often. It will dictate what you decide to do situationally if you know our goal. Like the Cleveland Guardians, I'll use them as an example. They know who they are. They've been this for years. They are not a team that's going to outslug you. That's just not how they play. But they can outpitch you, they can outdefend you, and they can get on the bases and then move you over and then score 3 runs and win 3-2. That's how they win. So when they get a guy on, they know, all right, now we know what our game is. Get him on, get him over, get him in. That's the whole name of the game for them. For many other teams, it's not about that, man. The Yankees don't play that style. No. The Yankees say, we're going to outslug you because we've got a bunch of big boppers.
We're just going to outjudge you.
Yeah, we don't have the ability to really beat you up with defense. We've got pretty decent pitching, but we're going to hit homers, and that's kind of it. For the Cardinals this year, that's why I find it to be an interesting discussion personally, is because they surprised us with their offense early on. I don't think that's sustainable, and I agree with you guys. I think the way they're going to have to win long-term is with the more small ball style of approach. I just wonder if this pitching can hold up in this way. I think the bullpen can. I think what we saw in the first series of the season was a whole lot of nonsense. Like, I don't think the bullpen's that bad. I don't think the offense is that good. I also think what we saw in this series against New York is a little bit flimsy in terms of the rotation. And that's where I wonder, how does this thing come together? If you don't have great pitching from your starters and your offense isn't able to come through regularly, what's the plan? How do you navigate that? What's the best course of action? And that I haven't really come to terms with yet. I don't know what the answer is.
I don't know if there is a course of action. I think that's why you're in a rebuild, right? I think you just kind of accept your fate at that point. And I don't think they're bad enough to lose like 100 games or 95 plus games this year. But that's why they're probably going to settle in as a like 85 to 90 loss team this season. So they just won't have answers for that. At least not until we get to potentially later in the year, like. Later in the year when we get to like August, September, you might be able to look at the rotation and go, boy, Bryson Mott comes in and looks like a guy that could be something here. Liam Doyle maybe appears in September and you go, well, there's finally something that there we can play with the rotation. Like Dobbins, Fitz, on top of the 5 guys you've got right now, those guys aren't going to be significant answers for you in the long term. And then same with the offense, right? The only other guy that might be able to provide some oomph to the lineup coming in the short future here is Baez, right? And even him, one guy can't uplift your offense significantly. So I think you're just kind of stuck in where you're going.
So I did want to ask you about some of those players that are on the horizon, because there's been a lot of talk, especially before the season, about Nelson Velasquez. He's 1 for 15 with 6 strikeouts down at AAA. He does have an RBI though, Alex.
Oh, here's this guy.
Has driven one in. He does not yet have an extra base hit. Nelson Velasquez,
more than Fermin.
0 for 15. Scored a run. That's what it was. 0 for 15 though.
Also better numbers than Fermin.
A 118 on base percentage so far
better
this
numbers.
year. I would argue worse.
Wow, has
I would
Fermin
argue
scored
it's
a run?
better to be 0 for 0 than it is to be 0 for 15.
Has Fermin contributed to
Is
a
it
game
0
yet?
for 0 and 1,000 batting average?
No,
it's actually a 0 batting average.
It doesn't exist.
Why would that be a 1,000 batting average?
Stop.
What are you doing, man?
Leave him be.
That's terrible.
Let the man live.
When you think about it, can't 0 for 0 be 0 or 1,000?
You know what, T-Bone? Grow up.
So
listen here.
It's been 4 games. It's a nothing burger in terms of the sample size. But I did want to ask you guys who the players are that are the closest to putting pressure on somebody at their respective positions at the major league level. Because I don't think it's Nelson Velasquez right now.
There it is again,
Came and
man.
went.
Just a low blow.
I know people are very excited about what Jimmy Crooks has done so far this year. He's on an absolute heater. 8 for 15, has 3 home runs and a double so far. People are already annoyed and done with the Pedro Paez experience.
Guy couldn't lay down a bunt in the most pivotal moment of a game.
I get it.
Probably hasn't practiced it.
They said he does it all the time in spring training.
That is correct.
They said he's the best bunter on the team.
I will give credit to Sweeney. I know this is a tough spot on the broadcast. He said that is a spot where you have to execute, and they didn't execute. Yeah. I loved it. Appreciated it. Jimmy Crooks is a guy that's interesting, man. We'll see what comes of this beyond just a 4-game sample size, but he could put some pressure on that catcher position if they buy into it. And then on the pitching side, it's Hunter Dobbins. I know you guys talked about this yesterday with the 30-day timeline for him. Quinn Matthews was not very good yesterday. Once again, did not have command, went fewer than 4 innings, gave up 4 walks in that start for him. But do you have anybody beyond just Jimmy Crooks that right now is putting pressure on their respective position at the major league level?
I think that would be it. Dobbins, and I think T-Bone mentioned Fitz didn't have a really good start in his first outing for Memphis, but I believe he'll put some pressure on it depending on what it looks like moving forward. I think you have to put Baez on that conversation. It's just I don't know how fast they're willing to give him a shot at the major league level, but if he hits and Nathan Church continues to not hit, Lars Nootbaar obviously is the next option, but you don't know how long that's going to be. So
60 days.
Bias is going to be close to be that.
Yeah, I think the closest answer here would be Dobbins. Because, I don't think it's a coincidence that they put him on a rehab assignment. They don't burn an option year, and whether it is they go to a 6-man rotation or they just replace him 1-for-1 with Palante whenever this 30 days is up for this rehab assignment, I think he's probably the closest one. I understand all the talk for Jimmy Crooks. I just think they like Paez so much. I don't think they're just going to say, yeah, we're done with Pedro Paez. He's going to be our 3rd catcher and serve as our right-handed bench bat. And Crooks gets up here and he's going to get significant playing time. I just don't see that happening. I I think Crooks is more of a conversation when they either A, determine Herrera's failed or as a catcher, or B, we get to the deadline and they decide, you know what, it's time we maybe trade Pedro Paz. Teams are always looking for a catcher potentially to come in. Look at the Padres. They traded for the Royals guy in Fermin last year. You might be able to move Paz at the deadline, and then you can get Crooks up here as the backup catcher.
Yeah, I think Crooks is a post-trade deadline move. I think all of these guys probably are. Like, you're going to let this
Not
play.
Velasquez.
No, he won't be here, unfortunately.
I agree.
I don't agree, but he won't
I do
be here.
think Dobbins is probably going to be that sixth man in the rotation. My guess is once that 30 days is up or somewhere thereabouts, I mean, starting with April 24th against the Seattle Mariners, up until May 17th, they have 2 off days. That's where you insert that sixth man. And you buy yourself a day here or there for especially a Kyle Leahy, who's coming off of a season where he didn't have his full workload. We saw last year they did this. It was successful for them. It's not just the Cardinals. Other teams across Major League Baseball are doing something similar. I think that's probably where you do that. And that's probably the timeline on making a decision with his bullpen as well. I don't think that you're going to see Chris Roycroft like optioned today. Maybe, but I don't think that's probably going to happen. I think you'll probably wait a couple of weeks here, see what these guys look like, give them an opportunity to have a bad outing or two, go work through it, get some time with Dusty, work behind the scenes, then take some of that back into the game, then do it again, then do it one more time. And if it's not corrected by the time we get into mid or late April, that's where I think you start seeing some of these guys optioned up and down, and you see a little bit more of that roster churn, especially when it comes to the bullpen. But there were just so many players in this bullpen that were unknowns. They've got to figure out what they have here first before they figure out, hey, we're getting rid of George Soriano or Brule or any of these other guys. Roycroft is the one that I'm not sure on. I could see them maybe going up and down with him, but I don't know who the guy is that they bring up right now.
Yeah, I don't really know either. I mean, there's nobody else. I know they like I can't remember his name. Is it Gastelum, something like that, where he's the guy the change-up pitch for one of the teams in the
that
WBC.
would require a 40-man move. I'm not saying it's the end of the world, but
we don't do those here.
We don't.
Got to make sure you keep Brian Torres on the roster.
And they may just wait. They sound like it sounds
there's no push to do so right now.
The other thing too,
know what I mean?
They
Torres
may
is
wait
making it
on
competitive.
How do you pronounce his name? Pushard? Is that right? Pushard. Thank you. I knew that wasn't right.
Pushard, real good.
Sounds like he's only going to be the 15 days. So like that's probably when they make their decision on Roycroft, because you have to keep him on the roster, otherwise you got to send him back to where he came from.
There you go. So that's when you make that decision, and then a couple of weeks thereafter, you'll make a call on somebody else to be able to make the room. It's probably at that point Grisepo, even though people won't like it, but you'll push him down, and then you'll bring up somebody else after. It's going to be a lot of roster churn. All right, alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Coming up in about 15 minutes, we're going to be joined by Felix Trudeau, one of the newest members of the St. Louis Blues. He's going to join us to talk about his path to get here. We'll do that in 15 minutes, believe it or not, next here on 101 ESPN. It's time to unlock your inner champion. The place to do so is with Victory Men's Health. It's time to check them out today. Go online, go to victorymenshealth.com. I'll say that one more time. victorymenshealth.com. When you get to their website, you'll see all that they have to offer. They have unbelievable services. They can help you out with testosterone optimization, weight loss goals, sexual health, whether that's ED, anything else. They can help you out over at Victory Men's Health. They also have red light therapy programs, cardiovascular testing. They can help you make sure that you're getting the most out of your trips to the gym as well. That is something they've done for me. I went over there and I got my micronutrient levels checked out, found out where I was at on all of these different potential deficiencies, and it turns out there was a lot of stuff that they could help me out with. So now in the mail, each and every month, they send me a personalized package. It has everything that I need in order for me to optimize my health. They can do the same thing for you. It's at Victory Men's Health today. Check them out online. Book that first appointment. Get started and unlock your inner champion at Victory Men's Health and victorymenshealth.com.
Believe it or not, I'm walking on air. I never thought I could feel so
Free, flying away on a wing and a prayer.
Who could it be?
Believe it or not, it's just me.
314-399-9646. That's the air covered service text line for Believe It or Not. You guys give us a scenario. We will tell you if we are believing it or not here on 101 ESPN. Felix Trudeau joins us coming up here in just a little
Hopefully.
bit.
Fingers crossed.
All right, Alex. Believe it or not, the Cardinals will have at least one 25 home run hitter this year.
Not believe it. I think you have two guys that hit 20. I don't think anybody gets to 25.
Gorman's doing it. Believe it.
Oh.
It's happening.
Welcome back. It's just not Tanner this time.
Dude, he's looked really good at the plate.
That's great, man. Let's talk in May when he disappears for a month. And then when he's back in June, you'll be back on board. And then July, let's play hopscotch for a month.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm not going to believe
That
it.
was
I don't know
Tony.
that they've got a 25 home run hitter because I'm not going to trust Gorman to do it. And I like Burley and Herrera. The problem is I'm not sure teams are going to pitch to those guys very often, so not believe it.
Guys, believe it or not, the Blues roster as it stands today will have 4 players that aren't on it next year.
Sonny gone.
It's funny that you think Sonny's gone. Sonny's also like a cockroach. He ain't going anywhere.
Whoa.
No, that's a good cockroach. I like that one.
I'll say in. What? Or I'll believe it. What the hell? They're going to make some moves this offseason.
Believe it or not, you know what the question is that I said.
Yeah, 4 players currently on the roster will be gone next year. I could see them trading Tyler Tucker.
So Tucker, I say Sundquist.
I think Kessel's. I put Kessel in the Tucker conversation.
Yeah, I'll say believe it. I could see where they could easily get up to 4, and if they decide to trade Parayko as well, you're there.
Why do you got to go to that, man?
Kyrou.
Kyrou's another one.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking
there's so many outs to get to
Kyrou,
4.
Sundquist, Hull, Kessel. Maybe they don't bring back Berggren, Binnington. I think there's a lot of outs. I'm believing this one. I think the roster looks a little different.
Guys, believe it or not, Masyn Winn will have the most plate appearances as the cleanup hitter this season.
Not.
Believe it. I mean, Ollie's made it pretty clear. I think they stick with it for a decent amount of time.
Velasquez over there.
No, I don't know who it's going to be, but I do not think that Masyn Winn will end the season with the most. I think he's their best option right now, and I think that'll change at some point in the next 6 weeks. I think at a minimum, when Lars Nootbaar returns, I think you're going to see a different look to the order. I don't know what that will.
But how? Because Burley and Nootbaar can't hit next to each other.
I know. I don't know how it will take shape. It might be that JJ drops down and you see Newt 1, JJ 3, Burley 4. I don't know who the 2/4 is in that scenario, but Herrera is one of them, and then we'll see who the other guy is.
I agree that I'm going to say not believe it, but I have no idea how we don't get there.
I think Herrera eventually becomes that.
Maybe, but I just don't know how you get to the 2 then that you're looking at that's right-handed.
Got too many left-handed hitters, man.
You don't have a good second right-handed bat, and that's the problem.
Let's trade a left-handed hitter for a right-handed hitter.
I'm in.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for Believe It or Not.
Velasquez.
We'll go through these
Memphis
quickly.
For me,
guys, believe it or not, the current Cardinals roster has 0 future Red Jacket members. I mean, the odds are probably in favor of that.
Yeah, there's nobody in the rotation. There's nobody in the bullpen.
Your outs are Herrera or Weatherholt.
I agree.
Yeah.
Or Winn. Winn could do it.
He's going to have to start hitting. I
don't agree. I think that if he's a Gold Glove defender and a Platinum Glove defender for the next decade, he can do it.
I'm going to say, believe it. There's not one that's on this roster.
I'll say not believe it.
Believe it or not, Jimmy Crooks is traded midseason.
Not believe it.
I agree.
Yeah, not believe it.
Coming up next, we're going to be joined by Felix Trudeau. He was one of the leading goal scorers in college hockey this season. He is now a member of the St. Louis Blues. We'll talk to him about his path to get here next here on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here with the Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Blues fell to the Kings last night. They will be back in action tomorrow night when they visit the Anaheim Ducks. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 8 o'clock with Alex Ferrario, then puck drop at 9 o'clock with Chris Carver and Joey Vitale. And the Cardinals are off today. They'll be back in action tomorrow when they start a 3-game set at the Detroit Tigers. 12:10 will be first pitch. Valdes on the mound for the Tigers. Michael McGreevy gets the start for St. Louis. The Sports Center update was brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin Heating and Air Conditioning dealer.
Alongside Alex Ferrario and Tanner Hendrickson, I'm Brandon Kiley. Happy to go out to the Callier and Thompson hotline. Joining us now on YouTube at youtube.com/101ESPN is Felix Trudeau. He is a forward for the Springfield Thunderbirds, recently signed with the St. Louis Blues organization as a college free agent, was a top 10 finisher for the Hobie Baker Award this year. Felix, we appreciate the time, man. How you doing today?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We're happy to have you on. So let's start out with your season that you had for Sacred Heart University. It was unbelievably impressive. You finished with 25 goals. What came together for you this year? What was it that allowed you to unlock the full potential of your game?
I think just confidence and telling myself to shoot the puck. Every time I had the chance to shoot it, I would, and obviously wouldn't be able to do it without my teammates. Obviously on the power play too. Power play was great this year, so it helped a lot. Yeah.
So, Felix, I've always been curious just about the process for college free agents. You weren't drafted, so you continued to play through college, and then you become a free agent where you're available to sign with any team. Can you take me through that thought process, what that was like in terms of conversing with teams and how you landed on the St. Louis Blues?
Yeah, obviously it's a little different, like they go through your coaches, teams call, and then you get on Zoom calls or like in-person meetings and stuff. And I think the Blues were the first team calling my coach, and then we met. And since then, I kind of knew that was the perfect fit. Seeing the prospect pool come in, like lots of good players, great organization, talking to the coaching staff. I think it was a perfect fit for me.
What was the sell from the Blues side of things? What did they tell you about the opportunity that exists here?
Just basically said they need a shooter on the left side, goal scorer and stuff. And yeah, I mean, what they sold was pretty interesting. And talking to my family and my agent, it was a no-brainer. Coming to St. Louis was the right move. So.
And I would imagine, Felix, like the goal is, of course, to get to the National Hockey League, even when you're playing in college. But at what point is that in the back of your mind of like, okay, I'm going to start to see teams start to call? Was it this season or was it last season?
A little bit last year, but didn't think too much about it last year because my first goal was to graduate. So I was for sure going back to school. And then, towards Christmas, started thinking about it. You try not to think too much, right? Because you want to focus on your season, on your team, but at some point it's a little hard. So, I'd say like towards Christmas, that's when it started. So,
we're talking to Felix Trudeau here on 101 ESPN, newest member of the St. Louis Blues organization. Felix, when you had this opportunity with the Blues, did you have anybody that you grew up playing with or that you knew previously that had experience within this organization or connections to the Blues?
Not really, besides Thomas Bordeleau that was traded here not too long ago. Childhood friend, family friends and stuff. So obviously coming to Springfield, like he was already here. The transition was a little easier having him, and if I had a question, he was there for me.
So let's talk about your first goal, because your first game as a pro hockey player, you, of course, score. I was watching this one because I was doing pregame for the Blues at the time. And, I mean, it's a sick backhander that you pull off for that goal. But it seemingly that transition was pretty easy for you from going to college right into pro hockey.
Yeah, obviously I was a little nervous first couple of games. The biggest difference, I'd say, guys are stronger. You're playing against men now. Like obviously college, you play against teenagers and stuff. So it was a big step. But yeah, Julian Gauthier made a nice play at Bordeleau, who chipped it in space for me and came down the right wing. And like I said, good things happen when you shoot the puck. Didn't really expect that one to go in, but it its way through. So it was great.
Is there anybody, whether it's NHL wise or somebody that you grew up with, that you model your game after?
Not really. Obviously, I have favorite players. Like when I was growing up, it was Sidney Crosby and stuff. But like, not like, yeah, just like when I was growing up, being a Montreal fan, like watching Suzuki and stuff. Like just not models, but like like looking up to guys like that. Yeah. Besides that, not really an idol or anything. So
well, and everything that I've heard, Felix, from the moment that you signed the contract to, of course, those first couple of games has been you're just a shot first mentality forward. I would imagine there's more layers to your game than that, but how would you describe your style that you play for Blues fans?
Yeah, I play with a lot of intensity, more of a power forward that can shoot, throw hits and stuff. So obviously my first mindset is always to shoot the puck if I get the chance, but I can also make plays in the O zone and stuff and reliable in the zone too. So
I would imagine that style of play will work with Steve Ott as your head coach. What has your experience been like so far with Otter?
He's been amazing. I remember when I first got here, he's like, I want you to play with the same intensity you played in college. I was like, maybe I'll run my mouth a little less, like it's bigger boys now, and I might have to answer from what I say. And he just said, hey, man, just keep playing the way you play. Like, who cares? Like, just run your mouth still. So that was pretty funny. Yeah, he's been great.
All you have to say is run your mouth, and Steve Ott probably loves you. Like, Steve Ott was that guy in the end. Hell, even when Steve Ott was on the bench for the Blues these last couple of seasons, you'd see him chirping players on the ice.
Yeah, no, he's been great. I remember watching him. He played 11 games in Montreal at some point, so I remembered him from back in the day. So,
is fighting a part of your game at all? Is that something you're comfortable with?
Or it's just the mouth running?
Yeah.
No, more mouth running, but like I might have to at some point, so might have to start working on that.
That's okay though. You got some guys in the Thunderbirds team that I know aren't afraid to drop the mitts, right? Have you had the conversation with the guys? Like, look, I run my mouth. As long as one of you guys got my back, I'm A-okay out here.
No, I've been pretty quiet, but it's funny you're talking about this because guys were actually practicing fighting after practice. So
really?
Yeah. So maybe I should have went in there and asked for.
I was gonna say, did you say advice? I'm gonna stay away from that one for now, but I'm gonna check in on the next time we meet up.
Yeah, I was working on one-timers when they were doing that, so maybe next time I'll just slot in and ask for help. So.
All right, I gotta ask a follow-up. What does that look like when they're practicing fighting?
I've always wondered
sparring? Like, what's going on to practice their fighting?
Just technique, I guess. Like I said, I'm not really big into that. They don't actually throw punches, but yeah, it was pretty funny to watch. Like, you don't see that in college, so.
I can speak for all Blues fans. Felix, just continue to hammer those one-timers. We'll worry about it. There's plenty of guys in the NHL that can handle that load. We'd like the shots more so than anything. I am curious, Felix, like you mentioned how they're bigger guys in the AHL. How has that transition been for you from college hockey? Like, obviously in college, maybe it's a little bit more crisp compared to the AHL. I've heard a lot of guys talk about sometimes it feels like the Wild West out there.
Yeah, I got a couple welcome to the league hits. Like guys are just stronger, but I think I've been doing fine. Obviously, over the summer, my plan is to get stronger. You can always be stronger, right? Especially like the D-mans on Providence, let's say last year, they were pretty strong and stuff. So, yeah, I mean, that's the major difference I saw. But like, and then execution, obviously a little quicker, but it's been good. So.
Is there anybody in particular on the roster? I know you've only been there for a little while now. This is very early for your Springfield Thunderbirds career, but is there anybody that stood out to you in terms of, like, whether it be off the ice, away from the ice, guys that you've been able to get to know, or on the ice with their game that stood out thus far?
I mean, like, guys like Chris Wagner, he has like over, I think, like 400 games in the NHL, or like Dylan Dubé. Like, these guys are pretty good. And then when I think about prospects, like one from back home, like Justin Carbonneau, what he does back in the QMJHL is pretty impressive too. So, yeah, I mean, everyone's good at this level, like there's not one player you're like, oh God, they're all really good hockey players. So it's been fun since I'm here, and hopefully we keep going for a while. So.
What is Justin Carbonneau's name like back home? Like, is that a guy that everybody follows given his goal scoring prowess?
Everyone knows he can score goals, so that's he has an unreal shot. So no, he's been fun to watch.
Felix, last one I wanted to ask you about, because you kind of mentioned it there off the top when you were deciding that the St. Louis Blues were a team that you'd like to sign with. You mentioned their pipeline and how many top-tier guys that they have in their system. Did that stand out to you right away of seeing what they've put together in their minor league system and what they have at the NHL?
Yeah, 100%, and just the way they talk about, like, how they develop guys and, like, how they work with the guys in the American League was just a no-brainer to come here. And, yeah.
Well, Felix, we appreciate you hopping on with us today, man. Yeah. Excited for you to begin this journey with the St. Louis Blues, newest member of the Blues organization, forward now for the Springfield Thunderbirds, top 10 finisher for the Hobie Baker Award this year in college.
I can't wait, Felix, for training camp next year. We're going to have you on for an entire segment with us to just talk more about chirping at the NHL level.
Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it.
You bet, man.
Thanks
for hopping on. That's Felix Trudeau joining us here on BK and Ferrario. Appreciate his time. New member of the Blues organization.
I like this guy.
Yeah,
I like it when you say, I'm already bought in, where he's like, oh, yeah, he's like, the moment I walked up there, I run my mouth, and that's fine. I'm okay with that, man. All right. Brad Marchand runs his mouth, and he doesn't have to fight.
There are some really interesting players down at the AHL level for the Blues right now.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, like, the fact that, he just told you what the Blues talked with him about signing, where he said, like, they told me they need a guy that can shoot from the left side.
I agree.
We talked earlier, their power play has really hurt them. The fact that you need guys that can shoot the puck, and the fact that you get him to play with, like, it honestly is the perfect storm in terms of you get him to sign, you're able to put him in the American Hockey League for the rest of the season to play against pro players in a playoff race, but also play under Steve Ott for 20-plus games. Like, think about that. You get to work with Steve Ott. That's important. Now, I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know what he looks like in terms of fighting for an NHL roster spot, but still, if you got a guy that can shoot, got a guy that's not afraid to play with a little physicality, and you get to work under Steve Ott for the rest of this season, it's a good thing to have. At least it's depth.
I legitimately forgot that Dylan Dubé was playing for them down there.
He's been actually pretty good. He's on their top line.
Yeah, he's putting up some good numbers, man. 26 points, +8, or excuse me, -7. My bad.
Yeah,
I saw the penalty.
He's not good defensively.
26 points in 38 games.
But he's been playing with Kaskamaki, who we know they're very high on. I think Kaskamaki's got 16 goals right now in the American Hockey League. So he's been playing.
Continue to hear about him for the next 10 years.
You'll probably see him next year in the at the
he's
training
only 21.
Camp. Yeah, he's young.
It feels like he's 31 for as much as he's been talked about.
He's been around for forever.
I know.
He must have gotten into the organization when he was like 17.
Well, they drafted him that year. Wasn't it the Dvorsky draft?
Was it?
I'm pretty certain it was the Dvorsky draft.
Did you interview him?
I think I did.
Oh. I wonder why I hear about him all the time.
Yeah, I think I interviewed him at that draft in Nashville. So, like, he's been around. And, on top of that, Dylan Peterson's the guy that we talked to a couple of years ago.
Really likes that guy.
He's been playing a real role for them. They've got
lots of penalty minutes, 80 penalty minutes for him this year.
I think a lot of them are fights. Dude's not afraid to drop them every once in a while.
He's probably the one practicing on the side.
They got that Pekarchik, who's another winger that was he dominated World Juniors. I think it was last year for the team that he played with. So they've got some really good pieces that aren't even in pro hockey yet in terms of Carbono, who you heard him talk about in Juracek. So it's why Scott Wheeler, who we're going to be joined by tomorrow, actually had them as a top 10 pipeline. And now you add in a guy like this who can provide a little bit more offense.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK. If you guys missed any of that interview or any of this show today, check it out on the podcast page, 101ESPN.com, and the free 101 ESPN app is where you go to find it. It's all sponsored by
Schaefer Door Company.
You can also check it out on YouTube, youtube.com/101ESPN STL. That is where Felix Trudeau joined us earlier today. By the way, I heard you almost slip.
I almost called him Justin, and it's because you spent the entire break saying I was going to ask him about being related to Justin, and the whole time I was like a parent that was like, don't embarrass me in this interview.
I don't think I did.
No, you didn't, but I was worried you were going to ask it, and so in my head, I'm like, God, don't say Justin. And then I said Justin.
You said You didn't say anything else. Yeah. You just got the first part out, and I was like,
he probably didn't know. We both knew.
I knew immediately.
I can't wait to see him. I almost called you Justin, man.
But you can find that interview over on the YouTube page. You can also find the latest edition of the Last Minute Blues podcast. And later on today, we got a new edition of the Redbird Report, Alex, and they have given us plenty of content to be able to discuss.
Can't wait to hear you guys discuss Winn in the 4-hole.
We'll probably do that.
And Velasquez, how he shouldn't be called up.
Probably do that.
How this team's going to be better because I don't like that people say they haven't played against anybody.
I don't think.
I definitely won't be saying that.
Don't we know it? Coming up next, the Rewind here on 101 ESPN.
Done.
I've got the most Alex Ferrario entry of all time for you over on the Underdog
That means
app.
there's at least 5
It's ready
picks.
to go. All signed up for tomorrow's Cardinals game. It's only 3 picks, Alex. I have Ivan Herrera to hit a home run, Kevin McGonigal to hit just to get a hit, and Victor Scott to have at least 1 stolen base.
You're missing 3 more.
Put all of that together, along with a 40% profit boost over on the Underdog app. 45 to 1 odds.
Okay,
How about that?
That one is
Herrera homer, McGonigal hit, Victor Scott stolen base. It's that easy. Choose whether your favorite players are going higher or lower. Use the Underdog app today.
Yeah, get your entries right. Win up to 5,000 times your cash. Be like Brandon. Put some fun ones together and maybe add 3 more. Make it a Ferrario pick over on the Underdog app. Download the app today. Use promo code BKO to score $50 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. That's promo code BKO. Underdog. Make plays, win money. Must be 18 plus and present in Missouri. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-MY-RESET or visit www.ncpgambling.org.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. The 101 ESPN app is one place that you can find today's podcast, and that is sponsored by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. Alex, the Cardinals are giving us reasons for optimism. That's all we can ask for right now. What's been your biggest takeaway from the Cardinals' first week of the regular season?
That they just don't know that they're bad. Are supposed to be bad, I should say. I called them a cockroach in the opening segment, and that's really what they feel like. They just don't die off. They've beaten 2 teams already. They've won 2 series, and it's because their relentlessness. They find ways to stay in baseball games, whether it's their pitching, who have done pretty well through the first turn through the rotation, or their offense that may not go out there and slug every night, but they're going to find a way to come up with a timely hit or manufacture some runs. So they're a fun team. I don't know if they're going to be great. They're probably going to be bad, but they're finding ways to win baseball games, which is all you could really ask for.
Yeah, I agree with what you said there at the very beginning that, right now they're playing well. They feel like a bad team that doesn't know they're bad yet, but that all depends on what Walker and Gorman do. I think they've been the biggest storyline through the first homestand. They look good at the plate. Now, will that sustain? You can call me one of the leading skeptics, but if it does, if they are able to sustain what they're doing right now, it really lengthens out this lineup and could bring an end to the win conversation and cleanup and just make it to where there are less outs in the lineup. Where right now you look at it, there's 2 guys that you really fear, maybe 3 if you want to put Weatherholt in that conversation right now. If those guys are legitimate and this is going to sustain, now you're talking about a lineup that could run 1 through 5.
I know we always do this where, hey, it's early. It is really, really, really
And they haven't played anybody.
We're 6 games into the regular season. For comp, this would be basically about 3 games into the NHL season or the first half of an NFL game of the regular season. That is the equivalent
right,
in terms of the percentage of the season that has been played. We basically have just begun the 3rd quarter of the first game of an NFL team's season. So
Man, it's going to be a fun year.
It is remarkably early, but it's been I would say positive in terms of what you've seen. That first half of that NFL game, man, you couldn't have asked for a whole lot better. You're up like 17-10, and you expect it to be terrible.
Hopefully, you're not the Atlanta Falcons at the Super Bowl.
that would be less than
Sorry,
ideal.
Stoltz.
But it's been an encouraging start. We'll discuss this more at length as we get into the Redbird Report coming up later on this afternoon. Blues off this evening, along with the Cardinals. No local St. Louis ties in terms of sports action this weekend.
Movie
but tomorrow,
night.
We will be able to break down the Final Four, which T-Bone will be attending. He's got a suite ready to go for him and his dad. Two seats ready to go from one of our texters. So excited for him to be able to go there. We will also be able to break down this series against the Tigers for the Cardinals and a big game for the Blues on the road tomorrow night in Anaheim. All of that tomorrow and so much more. We will also be joined by Scott Wheeler, so be sure to tune in tomorrow from 11 to 2. For Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. We'll talk to you then. The Fast Lane is next year on 101 ESPN.